Interesting music selection today.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm at my hair salon.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Yodelioden day. Man, this is, normally like anything else, you settle into a routine. You know, you're here to do the show, and now we start out here live with an amazing guest. This is so great to have you, Illeana.
Thank you. Cheers. This is tea. Not like beer or anything like that, by the way.
That's
Sure.
Justin and Brian's job.
Yeah. I'll make sure we'll catch up for you.
Yes, from sunny California.
Yeah, no, this is Brian's the only one not in California here.
Yeah.
But I'll be joining you. In 12 hours time. I'll be.
Yeah, I was about to say, what time do you get in tomorrow?
4 p.m. local time in
Ooh,
Dallas.
24 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
24
Nice.
hours, not 12 hours.
Yeah.
A little early.
Right on. Did you catch word on our possible, I assume, in-studio guest?
Nah, I haven't heard back. So
Okay, all right,
we'll
right on.
follow up.
We haven't started the official show yet, Illeana. Don't worry. We don't
Okay.
prattle.
Yeah, sorry, we're
this
not trying to trick you.
mindlessly in the show. Just
Yes.
go.
No, I'm curious. I was like, now I want to know who the mystery guest is going to be. I'm into it.
And we're gonna do after things first this time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me hit that.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me because I probably would have jumped right into the weird things.
All right. Well, let me click this, and I'll be good to go. You want to take us in, Andrew?
Yep.
All right, take it away in 3, 2.
Welcome to the After Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Yodelioden day. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. I mean, I've got an extra special episode here, so I'm more than fantastic. Got Justin Robert Young.
Oh, hi, friends. How are you?
And listen, guys, you've been doing a great job on After Things and Weird Things. And just so you know, we're recording After Things up front first because I've got news. Brian, Justin, you're fired.
Oh, doggone it. I knew this day was coming.
We have a special guest here that's probably after the show. Nobody's going to listen to us. They're just going to want to follow her. We're going to lose our audience. They're going to move on and keep following on. The wonderfully talented Illeana Douglas, who, if you check out her IMDb page, it goes on and on and on and on and on. In a very short amount of time, I should point that out too. She has, you know, guys, once you hear her voice, you're going to remember who she is. Recognize her immediately. She's got a book out right now called I Blame Dennis Hopper. You can go to her website, IBlameDennisHopper.com, and find out more about that. But Illeana, you're actress. Would you call it a comedian? I mean, you've done some great comedic roles.
Yes. Actress, comedian, writer, director, producer, cook.
Amazing. So on After Things, you know,
all around
Brian, Justin, and I, you know, we're wannabes.
Yes.
We're people who are, you know, going about stuff in sort of a small scale. You're a person who's working in you're painting on a very large canvas here, and we want to talk a bit about that. And first up is your book, I Blame Dennis Hopper. I mean, the reviews on this are fantastic.
Thank
Humorous
you.
and delightful, wholly entertaining.
Yeah, thank you. It's been amazing. People have to buy it before the paperback comes out, because that's always my fear, is that once the paperback comes out, then the hard copy goes way up, you know. So they but no, it's been getting great reviews. I'm going around the country touring, and tomorrow I'll be in Greenwich, Connecticut, then I'll be in Chicago. But you can find all of this. We have a Facebook page, I Blame Dennis Hopper, and you can find out all this by going there, see everywhere I am. That's very good. I am with a mic in my hand.
So you mentioned paperback is incoming, currently in hardcover. Is there an audiobook version by any chance?
There is an audiobook.
Yes.
I did the audiobook. I know there's a big audiobook. I love audiobooks, but so I recorded all the stories. And what's great about the book is that they're stories. So you can pick up, it's 15 stories. You can read any one of the stories. Some of my favorites are the story about Marlon Brando, but I talk about working on Goodfellas with Robert De Niro, Gus Van Sant, and To Die For. It's about how, you know, the how movies have really told the story of my life. In beginning with Dennis Hopper, because my parents saw the movie Easy Rider in 1969, and they ended up being profoundly affected by it and became hippies.
Thank God it wasn't Kramer versus Kramer. It would have been
I know.
a very sad, different tale of events.
Illeana, this book is an interesting choice. You've seen a lot of people tour with acts like this, where they're doing storytelling. Why did you want to
Yes.
have this be a book instead of performance art?
Well, it's, you know, it's funny you say that, because I'm doing a little bit of both. When I go out on the road and we have people, you know, when I'm doing the book tour, I read from the book, or I'll have celebrities read from the book. We show clips. As I said, my whole life was kind of told through movies. My grandfather was Melvin Douglas, and now I work with Turner Classic Movies, so I'm kind of surrounded by movies. So I show clips of films in between reading selections from the book. So it goes a little bit back to my kind of stand-up roots too. But it is a little, actually, a bit of performing.
What was you're one of those people that you're perfect for the show, because you've done so many different things. You're a
Yes.
person that, you know, that between acting and directing and that. Was there a plan? Was there a, hey, you know, was 15-year-old Illeana sitting in her classroom going, or her commune, saying, this is what I want to go do? Or how did all this happen?
Well, I was, you know, because my grandfather was Melvin Douglas, he really exposed me to movie making very early on by bringing me on the film set of being there, and that was sort of a game changer for me. For me, I really I wanted to be in the movies in some capacity. I did not know what that would be, but I sort of fell into acting, literally, as I say in the book, just because I didn't have any money. We didn't have any money for me to go to college. So the options for when you don't have any money, it seems to be like starving and actor seem to really work well together. You don't have to have any skills really to be an actor. And since I
You
had such a
say
screwed up
that,
childhood.
but I live in Burbank, and I know a lot of children of legacies who don't have the success that you've had.
Oh, really?
You know, there's
Well, it's a
something there.
combination. I mean, I always say, I mean, I always kind of joke around that I, you know, when you try really hard on things, to get in movies, those are the parts I've lost, but it's usually just you know, sometimes when you're in the right place at the right time, as I write in the book, you know, because I had, as a joke, written that I had a blood-curdling scream on my resume. That's how I ended up meeting Martin Scorsese. So, you know, you never know. It's crazy sometimes how you meet people.
What were some of the roles that maybe you tried really hard for and just didn't happen for one reason or another?
Oh my God. I mean, so many. I'm trying to think. There are a lot of the great, you know, a lot of the independent movies, mainly that are starring Marissa Tomei. In the 90s, I just felt like I lost every part either to Marissa Tomei or Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh,
I really,
jeez.
yeah. Heartbreak was the baseball movie.
Oh, League of Their Own?
League of Their Own, killer.
Ah.
And I played softball, and I
Oh
really,
no!
yeah, that was a killer. I wanted to be in that movie so bad.
So on conversely, what were there any roles that you turned down that later on you're like, ooh, maybe that would have been a good one?
No, I never turn anything down. I answer the phone. And I just say yes. I say hello. You know, I love to work, and I love to work, of course, with interesting people too. Sometimes you just do a movie because someone amazing is going to be in it. But I enjoy working. I enjoy all types of working, and the only time I've ever turned things down is when you know, sometimes there are certain things like I can't do, like I can't. It almost sounds comic, but with the theme of your show, I cannot work with rats. That's something. I mean,
Kill
people
the
think
next
it's funny,
segment, guys.
but I remember turning down like horror movies or zombie movies because I was like, because there's rats in them, and there at one point you'd have to do something with the rats, and I was
Is
like,
that the kind of
I
thing
can't
that
do this.
is that the kind of thing that you have to have a conversation with your agent? Be like, hey man, let's just put this in black and white on everything that goes out.
People think you're kidding, you know. I'm like, I can't have a rat crawl over me. Like,
Well, there goes our Willard remake. Thanks.
you know, so there are certain horror movies or post apocalyptic films that are going to be shot in water or mud or things like that, and those are the ones that I turn down. I've done movies in the snow. I don't want to work in the water. That's like another. I've turned down things where you have to be on, you know, a boat or in the water. But those are the main. Anything with zombies, I find to be challenging because they're always shot at night. They're freezing cold. You're covered with mud and blood, and then you're going to have to be having things ripped off of you. And
let's talk about your first project with Martin Scorsese was what? New York Stories, right?
Well, technically, it was The Last Temptation of Christ because that's when, as I say in the book, I was working for a film publicist named Peggy Siegel, and I got hired to dub screams in the movie The Last Temptation of Christ. And so that's how I met Martin Scorsese, and through that, he had me audition for New York Stories.
And then that led to Goodfellas. So how... people, on the outside, you have one perception where it's like, yeah, you just show up to auditions and you do that and then you get selected. But part of it seems to be that, people who get along well with others, and it's not just a matter of talent, but it's a matter of, obviously you probably did a really good job in the dubbing suite with those screams that, they decided to, consider you for other stuff.
Actually, see that, I mean, most of the things that I've gotten, I'm very knowledgeable about films and movies, and I have good instincts. And I was always prepared to be able to act. And so, when Martin Scorsese asked me he said, we're doing a loop group tonight at 5:00 if you want to come back and do background voices. Now, I had no idea what that meant. But I said, absolutely, you bet, I'll be there. And when it was my turn to get I understood filmically what he meant when he said background voices, which is the hubbub of crowds, because I'd seen a lot of these, big spectacle movies from the 50s and 60s. So I kind of understood what he meant, and I got a handle on it. So he picked up right away that I was pretty good at and pretty knowledgeable, knowing what he wanted. And so he kept asking me to do more and more things. So he said, hey, can you, we need to dub a line for Jesus's mother. Can you, it's a quote, this is a direct quote. We're going to line, Jesus's mother says, and the line was, so they would bring it up, and the line was, my son, my son. And I swear to God, it's like when he's carrying the cross, and he's going through the streets, and there's, you can see in the movie, and the mother comes up, and she has to say, my son, as he goes by, and I did that.
Nice.
And, yeah. So I kept doing whatever he told me to do. I'd say, absolutely, you bet, I can do that.
That's pretty good advice, I think, when Martin Scorsese is the one doing the asking.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Right, well, and then in between, because I knew so much about movies, we would, I had my movie books out and things, and he's like, "Oh, you're reading about Joe Mankiewicz?" So we would talk about movies, and I always assumed like, well, this is the only time in my life I'm going to meet Martin Scorsese, so I would ask him questions about. None of his hit movies, of course. Not like Raging Bull or Mean Streets. I would ask about After Hours and New York. All the quirky movies.
Well, I think you brought up something very interesting of kind of bringing more preparation to something,
Yes.
even if it is a small element of it, that you walked into a dubbing booth to scream for these looping sessions, but you also just knew more about the process and projected yourself as somebody that could be a valuable piece to a very complicated puzzle.
Yes. Yes. I always assumed in my delusional mind that I would be working in the movies. My idea of the movies, though, was like, I thought it was like the MGM studio system, though, you know what I mean, where you'd go to work. And I mean, the way I was discovered was actually exactly the way I thought it would happen. I thought that somebody would be like, "You're amazing, I want to put you in movies." And that's kind of the way it happened, except on a smaller scale, of course.
Well, and it's funny because like I don't know if that's certainly the archetype, and a lot of people have that image. That's very much not how things worked out for me. It was like nobody was ever going to come along, so I just made it up as I went along. But it sounds like in many ways that's exactly what you did as well. Nobody. There was no structure. You didn't do the highfalutin Juilliard acting school and then, go to the right audition and nail it and get the right. Small gigs and go up from there.
No, there was no money. And in fact, like I said, but for some reason I had a certain, and again, this goes back to the book and my roots. I think growing up in a very eccentric family, and very rebellious and kind of just doing what I wanted to do. And so I would go to these auditions and be like really out there and wear crazy outfits, and people didn't respond to me at all, but like I didn't really care. I was convinced that somehow, some way I was going to make it. And I don't know why that is, but you have to have that inner belief in yourself.
Did you have a clear picture of what constituted making it? Like, did you have a clear definition of what success would feel like, and if so, at what age?
Well, when I was very after my grandfather took me on the set of Being There, he started sending me movie books about classic Hollywood, and I started just reading more and more about films, and I wanted to be in films. That was really my goal, more so than theater, even though I started out doing musical theater as a kid. But what was a challenge for me was when I went to acting school, I was really kind of beat up a little bit because I'd come from theater. So I sort of thought I had it all going for me, but so the teachers didn't think so. So I got a lot of criticism for, when I was in school, but I thought it was great. I couldn't understand like why, I didn't get the rave reviews that my classmates did. And then again, getting this job for film publicity, I just assumed it was a matter of time. Like in my mind, we were working with directors like Norman Jewison and Brian De Palma, but I never thought, oh, they're going to discover me for being an actor. I thought like, hey, I'm in the movie business. We're working on The Untouchables here. It's only going to be a matter of time before I'm in the movies too. But this seemed like a good background. I know it's hard to explain maybe, but
sure. Well, oftentimes when you hear about successes like yours, where you encounter the right person and you do the right job, you keep showing up and being available for any kind of job they need. The tendency is to look back and just think like, wow, man, it was a small world back then. Do you think it's significantly harder for people to break into the business nowadays?
Much harder, much harder, because in my, I went to work in 1987, and I knew a lot about movies, and so I was given an entree into this world because I was so knowledgeable about films and everybody else in the office wanted to work with the movie stars. Like they wanted to work with Kevin Costner, which is ironic because I ended up doing a movie with Kevin Costner, and I never ended up working with any of the directors that I was working with, even though I was great admirers of them. But I always wanted to work with a director. So if we were working on The Untouchables, I would say, oh, I want to let me be an assistant to Brian De Palma, because it kind of made me feel as if I was in the film somehow and I was, helping the film. What all those things helped me out later on when I was actually acting in a movie. I kind of understood the psychology of the director. But these days, you know, I also had a great deal of patience, so that when it was finally my turn, I was pretty skilled and pretty knowledgeable. These days, I don't know if we have kind of the training that we used to have, and like everybody has a camera and everybody is making movies. So how do you differentiate yourself? That's the problem.
How did you get people to see you? Because as an actress, when you're working with people in the business, very often people, see you as, oh, they're a neat person, all that, but they kind of, well, she does publicity, or don't understand that you have your aspirations, your real skill set may be outside of there.
Right. Well, when it was, again with me, it was just like a little bit haphazard. I'd been to acting school. I was trying to to audition, but people weren't really responding to my auditions. I got much more of a response when I was working for Peggy Siegel, when I bypassed the casting process and was working with the directors. Then, but at the same time, I was also doing sketch comedy. I mean, I really thought that I was going to be doing comedy. Then but I shifted gears after I met Martin Scorsese, because once I was in Cape Fear, everybody thought I was a dramatic actress. So I kind of went down that path. But, you always have to do things that, eventually I think you come back to what you are passionate about. And now I'm doing more writing and directing, and specifically doing comedic things, which is, I think, really my passion.
When did you discover that was your gift?
I always thought it was my gift. Nobody else thought it was funny, but I thought it was pretty. I always thought when I was doing sketch comedy that I was very funny, but nobody laughed at my stuff. But then, when I was hanging out with Martin Scorsese and doing my Raging Bullwinkle routines, he thought I was a riot. So he was like my first big, I think, real supporter. He would, he'd come watch me do stand up, or I was doing like off Broadway plays. I remember like one night I was doing this play, and somebody came backstage and said, "You're not going to believe this. I think Martin Scorsese is sitting in the audience." But like, he thought I was great. So that was kind of good enough for me,
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yes, Raging Bullwinkle.
Yes. So, what was that?
Well, as you can imagine, it's a takeoff of Raging Bull, but with Rocky the Squirrel and Bullwinkcle. And
Right.
luckily no YouTube exists of it, but it was when I was doing stand up for about a minute in 1987, 88. It was one of my routines.
Oh, that sounds fun.
That's amazing. Now you
Imagine
mentioned
little Rocky trying to
early,
get Bullwinkle to hit him.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that you kind of had these visions when you were going to break in as the big MGM old school Hollywood system, which is kind of ironic because you have such a name for independent movies, which also have changed dramatically over the past 15 years. What do you think is the biggest difference in independent, both movie making and distribution and everything?
Well, again, I was very lucky to, I mean, for me, a movie like Easy Rider in 1969 really begins the independent film movement, and then goes into the 70s. And then when I started, the 90s really was when Sundance kind of cracked open. And I did an independent film just because I really thought the script was amazing. It was called Grief, and I had followed up To Die For by doing this movie. It cost $28,000. My agents were horrified with this, gay storyline, and people were thinking like, what are you doing with your career? But I I believed in the director and I believed in the story, and the movie went to Sundance, and that's totally changed my career, because once I was up at Sundance, I met Allison Anders, and that's when I really again thought, my roots really, you know again, this rebellious upbringing, and independent films just seemed harsher and darker. The stories seemed more interesting, and those have been the kind of movies that that I've been most passionate about being in. Less interference, more character driven, and primarily great stories for women.
So you've had a lot of conversation around the fact that those movies are even harder to make and harder to distribute now than they were in the 90s, which is widely considered to be just a huge boom time for films like that. Do you think that that's true, or
so true. I mean, I'll do like 5 movies in a year, and then I mean, I have friends who remind me that we were in a movie together. We go, whatever happened to that movie? I'm like, we were? They're like, yes, we've been in 3 films together. I'm like, what happened to them? So, you go do these movies, and I don't know what happens to them. Sometimes they appear on, VOD, or sometimes, you'll see a DVD of it, but
I guess that's one of the weird things is people imagine that you work on a movie and that becomes your life, and then when it comes out, you're like, oh, it's my baby. I've been there from the beginning. But that is not, as I understand it, how it is for actors. It's a gig. You're doing it, and you do your job. You do the best you can. You do what the director tells you, and then after that, it's their baby, and maybe you encounter it again down the road, and you're like, oh, hey, that one turned out to be good. Or you're like, oh, hey, that turned out to be not so good.
I know. Again, and that's the saddest thing. And I had something again that I write about, is that there was a period, a glorious period in the mid 90s, where you'd go do a film, like To Die For. That wasn't a big budget film. I mean, I think it was, maybe 8 million, something in that arena. And you'd have 3 weeks of rehearsal, get to know all the actors. You'd make the movie. Then it would go to the Toronto Film Festival. It was just a longer period. You'd go to all the film festivals. It would come out. You'd go to promote it in Europe. I mean, I remember, being flown to Europe after the American release to go do all the foreign release. Well, now there's just absolutely no money to do all of that. So, I mean, you're lucky if you do a movie in 20 days, and then it comes out. You maybe do 1 day of press on it, and it's not as it's kind of, some of the enjoyment has been taken away in that sense. And the most fun part of it now is if the movie gets in a festival like Sundance, because Sundance is still a very important film festival.
It's interesting you talked about just this when you first did, I think it was Grief. Is that 92, 93, 94, that period at Sundance? It's when we saw Reservoir Dogs, and we saw so many things that shaped film for the next 20 years, and so many of the people who are now big talents today starting at that point.
I agree. I saw that. I think I saw that year Kevin Smith's Clerks. I mean, it was a thing. Independent film was exploding, and you wanted to be a part of it. I mean, everybody wanted to be a part of independent film. And, we were developing films. I did, I mean, I was just doing independent film after independent film, and we were all, seeing each other and friends and making movies together. And then, around, I always think it was like around 2003, things started fragmenting and not becoming, you couldn't put together a movie anymore.
So have you been able to watch kind of the changing face nowadays? We see a lot of young people who not only act but want to do their own cinematography, and of course you have equipment that's gotten so much cheaper. Distribution is cheaper. There you have these YouTube movie makers or whatever. Have do you know any of the folks in that scene, or is that a case like how do you view that changing shape? If somebody wants to get into acting and get into the Hollywood scene now, in your experience, what's the best angle for them to take?
I mean, I watch them. I watch a lot of the YouTube things where I did a web series called Easy to Assemble. And what I was wrong about I knew that to me, web series were going to be the new independent film. I knew that. So I called that one correctly. And I kind of got out of independent film and started doing web series.
That was for IKEA, right?
Yeah, what I was wrong about was in cultivating a YouTube channel. And the people that cultivated their YouTube channels back then were very, very smart because in a sense, they're curating their life and they're their own distribution platform and they've had all these years to get, their own fan base. And so that is really important, but that's one type of filmmaking. That's like that very simple, it's almost like autobiographical storytelling, right? Where they're talking to the camera,
sure,
and being kind of funny on camera. That doesn't require any cinematography. And in a sense, this is what I find challenging as an artist. That's just as valid, if not more valid, than something that looks beautiful and it has some art to it. And I find that a little frustrating because I still like to look at pretty pictures and really be moved by something sitting in a cinema with other people.
I love the fact that you recognize that artistically it has its own merits for its own rewards, because there are a number of people who, and there's less of it now as the legitimacy of YouTube continues to rise. But there's certainly people who be like, these kids in their webcams, just turn it on and, take a picture of a cat pooping and all of a sudden they got 1 million views. Boo.
Yeah,
absolutely. Seriously. That was one of the things I was totally wrong about that. When we were doing Easy to Assemble, I had friends that were doing YouTube stuff and they used to make fun of me because I would put all the money into the show, making it look good and cinematic and making it look like a movie.
But there's still...
And in the end, it didn't really matter. I would have been better off concentrating more on social media. And I had some people doing that, like really building their Twitter following. And I was a little behind the game in that. Now I realize how important it is. I mean, in terms of selling my book, social media and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, it's been incredible how important it is.
I think there's a middle ground though. Because Brian's got his YouTube golden play button for 1 million subscribers, and his stuff is really well produced. Brian's Scam School is, it's TV level cable TV production level.
All right, hold on. One of the editors is right here in the room right now.
Hey, come on.
Like I said, cable TV level production skills, above Fuse, way above Fuse.
Okay, good.
You're right that you see a lot of these people who've built up these followings just by talking straight to camera, but in some ways it's talk radio for tweens. There's a limit to what they can do. You went off, you had a sponsor, you hit IKEA, you were able to figure out how to integrate into a product, and maybe you're ahead of the curve. But I think that as we're seeing increased production values as sponsors have stepped on to in the game, I don't think your instincts are wrong at all on that.
Yeah, the other thing I was wrong about with the brands is that there were no brands after IKEA that, when we started working with IKEA, everything was like, hold the gum. Like we did a web series. I did a web series with Trident. And all it was like, no, hold the gum, eat the gum. They didn't even care about the story as long as every celebrity just had to
whenever the gum's not on camera, everyone should be saying, "Where's the gum?
Exactly.
Where's the Trident gum?"
They were promoting some fruit flavored gum, and it was like, okay, that's all they cared about. IKEA, it was the opposite. They didn't want to have any. It was like the store was a character in the show,
A
so we
lifestyle
didn't
brand.
have to advertise. But no other sponsor post IKEA has loosened the reins in the way that IKEA did. It's still, like when you see some of these shows, podcasts, like, Adam Carolla is a good example. He does the show and he's very entertaining, and then he stops for a commercial, and that's the way they did it in the 1950s.
Sure.
Where they hold the product and they plug the product, and then they go back to the entertainment. So it still feels like that feels very, very traditional.
I think, it's changing. Brian and Justin, I watched these two knuckleheads out water skiing for a car company.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. I like the fact that you bring it back to the 1950s, because it would be in the middle of the Andy Griffith show that all of a sudden you weren't sure if it was still the show or not, but they're talking about grape nut cereal. That's almost where the content evolves into, because it's so personality driven, and marketers, people doing these big ad buys, they don't just want you to pause everything and play some pre-produced commercial. They want to feel like this is part of the experience, and they want your personality to come through, which is interesting because the people who are saying yes to these gigs are being grilled a lot harder on, like, no, seriously, do you actually like Toyota vehicles? Because we don't want you to do this if you don't like Toyotas, because that's just going to be weird.
Yeah.
Just for background, Brian and Justin did a VR campaign for a Toyota RAV4 where they followed them around with their shenanigans, doing various adventures in VR. So you could watch them in VR, and it was a RAV4 taking them from place to place.
Well, I mean, no, Andrew, it was the all-new RAV4 hybrid, of course. Just an amazing machine and so economical. And it was funny because we had the ad people on set, and they were very, very careful to tell us, like, don't ham this up. Like they didn't want us to be. It was more like the IKEA experience for you, Illeana, where they were like, just like barely. If you need to mention this thing, then do it, but don't turn to the camera and wink and say, "Oh, what a value!" Like they wanted it to be a little softer.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. It's almost like, again, TV is still a little clunky versus the web stuff, which has been I predicted that right. To me, web stuff and YouTube is basically where all the independent filmmakers have gone. I mean, I'm very curious if you guys saw, Woody Allen's doing a web series.
Netflix,
now.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, let me talk to you about TV, because one of a role that for me I adored that you did was action, and
yes.
In the early 2000s, and that in watching it again for when it came out was kind of way ahead of its time for where TV was going to go. Not only in some of the languages and the subject matter, but even for, only a few years later, Entourage comes out, and that makes actions kind of in Hollywood jokes look soft by comparison.
I know.
But is that something that you would agree with?
Very much so. I mean, there's a chapter in the book called The Roulette Wheel of Insanity, and I describe how sometimes you do a movie and it's completely insane and nobody gets along and everybody's fighting and it's a huge hit. And then sometimes you do a show like Action where it's like love, everybody's crazy about each other, and we were on the cover of TV Guide and everybody thinks it's amazing, and you got canceled after 13 episodes. So, it's like you just never know.
I would imagine that at some level, I don't want to say that you just develop a thick skin. I guess, yeah, sure, you get a thick skin. You become just a little bit emotionally divorced from the outcome. You understand that something can be really, really good and really visionary and not do well now. And then you have phenomenon like, we'll say Firefly, where, years after it's canceled, this uprising of it's the best thing ever pops up.
Yeah, that was, of all the things I've done, Action to me is the most surprising. Because
that was the Jay Moore series?
Yeah. Just because I mean, we had Ted Demme was our director, Chris Thompson, the writer, Jay Moore, Buddy Hackett. The quality of the writing was so good and it was so dark. And the popularity of the show, we had Sandra Bullock was on it, and Keanu Reeves and Selma Hayek, Ice Cube. I mean, people were dying to be on the show. And I thought that the story of it was, was really dark, and people really loved it.
Do you think that it's that it had trouble because it was on a broadcast network, whereas if it was on HBO or something, it would have been a different situation?
Well, it was developed for HBO, right?
Yeah, that's people always say that. That's that may be the case. Had we stayed with HBO, and not been on Fox, because once we went to Fox, I believe we were the first show that had bleeping. They had to bleep us.
Oh, wow.
And, it was a freewheeling show. And I think maybe the timing of I don't know, a lot of people came out against the show, too. They were saying that it was crass and vulgar and ruining family values.
Oh, dude, yeah.
I mean, again, this is, a show where Jay Moore plays a character that, lines of which would be almost indistinguishable from Ari Gold, which, came out, 4 years later and was the most beloved, character on television for a decade. It was so good. And it's so funny that, you mentioned 13 episodes. Today, that would be like, oh, look, a successful first season for Action. I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, totally. And, they canceled us for supposedly having low ratings, and our ratings were like, 4.5 to 5, which
nowadays is astonishing, right? It's like a presidential address.
Right. I think 2 is considered like good now. Imagine to think people got like a 12 share or something.
Well, and we've talked about this before. It's fascinating. There was a time in the mid 80s when and this is the example of a podcaster friend of mine, Dan Carlin. He points out that in the mid 80s on a Wednesday night, a middling episode of The Golden Girls would get like would get like a 10-point 10 million views or whatever. And nowadays, you have someone like Bill O'Reilly's crowing about having 250,000 viewers every night or something.
Yeah,
he does a lot more than that.
I know, but it might as well be. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think again, it was, the stunt casting of Buddy Hackett was way ahead of its time. Just celebrities being, like you say, Entourage kind of did covered that same territory, but we were one of the first.
But also, there's
something
to be said about where the HBO audience then and now is very different than people who would identify as, a Fox audience. If you're on HBO, it's because you like movies, and you're going to get when Jay Moore makes a John Woo reference about pigeons, you're going to get that because you know that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that's helped now, and why we're having this golden age of TV, is that because there's so many different more outlets for it, you can take more sophisticated fare and put it somewhere else where you're not going to have executives going, the joke's not landing, make it dumber, make it, you're going to, you have a little more room.
Well, in fact, now what ends up happening is, which is kind of strange, is the note is to make it darker, or put more drugs in it, or make it more sexual. And it's like, I don't know how much more sexual you can get. My mom watches Game of Thrones, and I come in and I'm like, there's all this nudity. It's freaking me out. Like, why is my mother watching this stuff?
I've been watching Vinyl by your friend, and it's really good, but it's also got like this, there's like some Final Cut Pro or Avid preset that HBO uses, like, okay, put in a wanker here, put in this here, drug use here, da-da-da-da-da, which, again, if you're doing a series about the music industry of the 1970s, that's a given. But
right.
There is a formula now that it's just this, it's going to hit these beats for that.
Sure. No, if there's more than 3 lines of exposition, you have to have some kind of graphic nudity or drug use or something.
You guys are younger than me. Like, how do you feel about that? I mean, I find it disturbing, but Maybe because I'm old fat. I mean, I feel like is that giving us a I don't know, just like there's no barriers. Like how do you guys feel about
I mean,
that?
I think part of it is, where it is used. I think with Game of Thrones is so much of its own just kind of explosion of all these sort of elements that I don't really mind it there. But it's been interesting to see that it's not necessarily just a thing where you can throw it in and it does well, because you've seen so many other shows that, both on pay cable and on basic cable, that have tried to replicate either the violence or the sex of Game of Thrones that hasn't necessarily been able to draw the same eyeballs. So I think it's good to have it as a tool, but
Yeah.
to say that it's overused, I think would not be a stretch.
Right, because then where do you go? Like, where do you? There's nowhere else to go.
Well, these things have a tendency to, and again, nudity on cable late night is not a new thing. That's been around forever, and
Right.
one of the reasons that people watched it. I think there's a tendency for things to kind of go out there, then go back. If we go back and we look at some of the films in the early '70s, you would find that they were kind of pushing limits. Before the whole, was it the Film Standards Code? Back in the 1920s, things were a much more, risque, and you go back and look at King Kong, and, when he takes the dress off of the character in 1933, that would not have happened 3 years later. And so I think these things go back and forth.
What I find is that that's more tittillating, though. You know what I mean? It's, if you see it, like there was a movie, I remember when I was a kid and my mom took me to see, because, it was Diane Keaton, but we went to see Looking for Mr. Goodbar, and there's like a lot of nudity in it. And she's walking around naked, but it was part of the story, versus now sometimes when I see a film and the sex scenes are almost shot like action scenes. The guy throws the girl up against the wall. I'm like, it's for me, a little off-putting.
Yeah, I mean, but there's always been a history of certain genres of film that have done that, and then you get Halle Berry famously in Swordfish. They're like, what check do we need to write to get you to go topless?
Right,
Because,
right.
it's silly. There's nothing for the plot, but they knew for like, well, we're going to increase the number of young males that will come in and see our movie if they know this is there. And I think with HBO, part of their audience is that it certainly is done for titillation's sake. And there certainly is limit points where you go like, all right, we didn't really need that. That was absolutely,
Well, and I think oftentimes that the ones where those scenes make sense in the context or actually do advance the plot in some way are the ones that do well over time. It's like you go back and watch any of the schlock horror from the late 70s, and it's real clear when all of a sudden somebody has a budget just to throw a few extra buckets of blood because they can, or so on.
Right.
Whereas you've got wonderful movies like The Exorcist, where it's judicious use of those things and all of it relevant to the main story.
I have a real quick aside. So when I was living in Florida, I had a friend that was an aspiring filmmaker, and he wanted to use my parents' house, and then there's a boat on the dock there, and he wanted to know if he could go shoot there. And I'm like, yeah, sure, you can go ahead. So they came in for a day. The crew was really nice. It was just really small crew. They shoot some stuff, whatever. And then later on, like a year later, he shows me a cut of the film, and I watch his detective, the character playing the detective, walk into the house, go search the boat, then like walk back into the house, open up a door, and it was a cut shot to some completely different room where there's some girl topless reading a magazine who just looks over at him, smiles, and he's like, shuts it. It was like, and it was purely because when he was trying to sell it on the home video market, some guy's like, we got to have some TNA. So they just literally cut in, and it's, I remember the old adage, like, always have your character at some point get footage of them on the phone. You don't have to do dialogue, just have them talking on the phone. So later on, you can put that back in and add whatever exposition you need. And apparently in this genre, it was like, always have your character open up a door because you can have a naked broad in there, and it'll save the film.
That's amazing.
It is something interesting though, because you've seen also on shows like, Girls on HBO, where you have a lot of nudity, but very rarely is it necessarily titillating, right? Like it is there to project something else, although certainly something that is meant to heighten a scene that would otherwise, be something different if Lena Dunham's top were still on.
Right. No, no. Well, that's what I always wonder. If, look, for from a writer's point of view, like, does then writing something that doesn't have nudity in it become, or drugs, or what if you don't have the drug experience? Are you supposed to uh, put that in because everybody else is doing it?
Well, isn't that the kind of game where, man, and I think I'm literally thinking of video game simulators where it's like this roller coaster tycoon. There was some movie making tycoon thing where you had to say like, all right, you would get newspapers that says everyone's scared of drugs, so you're like, all right, let's put more drugs in our movie. It'll do better. I mean, I would imagine. I don't want to reduce the entire cinema, the movie making experience down to it. But from the production standpoint, I would imagine that whatever it is you feel like everybody's, worried about, terrified of, excited about, just figure a way to wedge it in there.
I guess. I mean, that's, I haven't faced that issue yet. I mean, as you guys were saying, when we did action, it was we had pushback in the other way, in the other area, where we had to clean up the story or not be able to say certain things, certain storylines we couldn't do. We couldn't be too suggestive. Now it's almost the opposite way. Like, as when you're watching television, CBS, any of the big channels, I'm shocked at like some of the stuff.
Well, and it's funny, like,
see.
but we do, and I have very, very limited. We did a TV show called "Hacking the System" on National Geographic, and we got from Standards and Practices the reverse, where they're all like, yeah, don't mention this brand name. Yes, it is factually true that you could combine these two objects to cause this to happen. Let's gloss over that. We don't want these guys to be upset that we're talking about how to use their product and so on. So it's like, just as you see, I don't know. It's weird to essentially feel this pressure to not share the factual things. I don't know. It's crazy.
I told you when recording the opening introduction for my show, the note was my line was like, I'm Intermain. I like to mess with people. And the note was, no, we want him to say, I want to F word with people. And I'm like, and I'm doing this. I'm like, they're not going to use that. Like, yeah, I know, we'll cut it out, but they'll bleep it over, whatever. I'm like, no, I promise you, there's an executive in there that thinks this is going to be edgy and all this, but what's going to happen is we're going to turn in this copy, and you're going to call me back in here to say, I like to mess with people. So can we just record those lines?
Right.
And of course, I like to mess with people, but it was just because somebody, was like, we do this edgy. I had a meeting with a children's network that at some point I need to write down the graphic language in which they described, you need to F with them. We needed this. We needed this. I'm like, oh my God.
You're talking about children. What's going on?
This is horrible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
but are you going to buy the show?
The stories from that production are just
Well, I guess, I mean, again, I have no in my day, we'd see nudity at a drive-in movie. That was like, as you were talking about horror movies and stuff, that's when you'd always see nudity. But, you didn't tell your parents or anything.
Well, and plus, like, there was some, I want to say...
Dad took you to the movie like mine did.
I started watching the beginning of what in the U.S. was released as Dungeon Master. It was released as Rage War in the rest of the country. This is a PG-rated film that shows full frontal female nudity in a nightmare scene where she's being drug off instantly, and I think part of it is that we just didn't have the fidelity of filtering that we have now. We have more rankings. There's on YouTube there's community standards and guidelines and so on.
Right.
I think there was just one fire hose that everybody shoved everything through back in the day.
We do want to remind everybody that Illeana's book, I Blame Dennis Hopper and Other Stories from a Life Lived in and Out of Movies, available now. Go to Amazon and pick it up. And by the way, on Goodreads, 199 ratings and a 4-star review. The people have spoken, Illeana, and they love this book.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I've gotten so many wonderful responses from people just about the book, whether it's, again, talking about some of my work experiences with Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro, to, just movie going experiences, what what it was like to see Jaws for the first time. And it's a memoir that's told through the movies, celebrating all the so many movies that I saw as a kid, starting in the 70s.
Well, by the way, just within 5 minutes of you getting on Skype with us, I was able to find it and buy it on Audible. I cannot wait to dive in. All of it is read by you on the Audible presentation?
All of it. Yeah. In fact, it was a couple times. It's interesting because you have to read sad, parts. And we had to stop a couple times because I made myself cry reading my own sad material.
I've heard that, especially for autobiographical stuff, that you have a little bit more leeway with audiobooks, that a lot of, especially comedians that are reading their own books, will kind of just sort of freestyle a little bit, since it is a very conversational storytelling thing. Is that something that you did with the audiobook?
No, I did it because the stories, again, the way the book is set up is that it's 15 stories. So each story has a very, set up beginning, middle, and end. So if I'm talking about, how it came to be that I met Marlon Brando, or how, working on great, this movie I did, Grace of My Heart. What I tried to do is tell one amazing story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So it really had to be told exactly the way I've been telling it. A lot of these stories are stories that I've told people over the years, and they kept saying, please, you got to write a book for people that love movies. You've worked with all these amazing people. And I like to think of myself as a rememberer. I've got a great memory, and I feel like it's becoming, we're almost forgetting. We can watch movies on Netflix, but we don't have a context to people who've actually, met Marlon Brando and can actually talk about what he was like.
Well, I want to put your memory to the test real quick. We just got a tweet from our friend Brett Rounceville on Twitter, who interrupts us saying, "Psst, she played the manager of Aerosmith on the pre-show for Disney's Rock and Roller Coaster. Is that for reals?"
Yeah, that was really a lot of fun. Just a strange. I was doing the Drew Carey show, which was a Disney show, but I just got this call like, "Hey, do you want to go to Florida and be Aerosmith's manager in the Rock and Roller Coaster?" And I was a big Aerosmith fan when I was a kid, so that was an absolute blast. We shot this little thing. Ken Marino, actor, very popular, is also he had a very small part in our little pre-movie, but that will play forever.
That is awesome.
No, in fact, it's playing right now. They're in the what are they, Hollywood Studios now in Orlando.
Yeah, I only had to ride the ride once when they opened it, and I was so sick. First of all, I don't like roller coasters, but this is a roller coaster in the dark.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's probably one of my favorite rides in all of Disney, for sure.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, definitely. I mean, the mixture of the soundtrack and the context and being just the right amount of wacky, loved it.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
There's all sorts of media. There's theatrical, there's film, there's television, and amusement park.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing you think about is how many times a day people are in that line queue and they see you.
Oh, I'm sure more people have seen that than anything I've ever done, Well, everywhere I go, people say, make it a super stretch, or,
So let me ask you this. What is that the role that people recognize you for the most, or you get quoted about the most?
I don't know. Usually people come up to me, and there's a certain group of people that love Grace of My Heart. Of course, Goodfellas is, people love Goodfellas. People love Cape Fear. They always want to, know about Robert De Niro. But there's some of the quirky films I've been in, like Happy Texas. People love Stir of Echoes, Action.
Stir of Echoes.
Some of the television work I've done, like the Larry Sanders Show or 6 Feet Under. So usually people have their own favorite. I've got a pretty wide fan base. Ghost World is another one. People love Ghost World. I've been going around the country with that. And then I also have my whole other fans from Turner Classic Movies, and they're amazing. They're on Twitter, TCM Party. And we watch movies on TCM, and we tweet at each other during the movie, and that's really fun.
Isn't that we've talked about social media earlier, but social media in many ways has kind of shaped or reshaped what it means to be a performer, because it used to be that acting was about, you know, the role, your performance at one time. Maybe you would do some appearances on some late night television shows or whatever, but in so many ways the act never stops. You know, there's a element to it where you have to tell the truth and give your part. I mean, even now as we're doing this hour-long podcast where we talk about the experience and the craft of the art,
Right.
I personally think it's wonderful that it just offers this increased fidelity between you and the fans.
I do too. You know, it's always a challenge because I feel what's interesting is that some people can pull it off and some people have no interest in doing Twitter. And I respect that. You know, they don't know how to do it. They don't want to do it. They don't want to engage with the fans.
Yeah.
I love engaging with the fans because I love movies. And so for me, the internet was such a great way to talk to other people about movies. You know, what did you think of this film? You know, did you like it? Did you not like it? Or again, to share interesting films with people. And so I love communicating with the fans. You know, we're all, as I said, we're all watching TCM. We're making, you know, our little jokes together. You know, we have our little film community. But then again, you can you know, you can educate people, and I've been educated about films, you know, too, that certain films that I don't know, and people suggest movies, etc.
Well, that's a perfect segue right now into the part of our show where we make picks and we recommend things for people out there to check out. Obviously, our pick is going to be I Blame Dennis Hopper by, what's the name of the author? I think Illeana Douglas.
Yes.
I heard it's really
that's
My pick is specifically the audiobook version.
no, hardcover.
Okay.
My
Make
pick
sure
is
to
the
give
hard.
me if you like it too. Make sure to go give me a good review up on Amazon.
Oh, we
But
have
those things,
talked.
again, talking about social media. You know, the artist has a really. It's interesting these days, as you guys know. It's harder because you have to do a lot, but it's also, you know, you have this ability with fans and your fan base to support each other. And those kind of things really work to people that are looking at numbers. And so, you know, you may not have, you know, I'm going to be brutally honest, you may not get the money that you used to get in my day, but you'll have the ability to keep working. And in a sense, that's the most important thing.
Man, you could not have a more enthusiastic group of people supporting that sentiment, because you're looking at a guy with the number one down below me. Justin has the number one highest reviewed card game on Amazon that's not called Cards Against Humanity. You have you have Station Breaker. Andrew's book just came out, obviously blowing it up on the reviews on Amazon. I'm sure at some point I'll do something that I need reviews on, but it's like, man, it really, really matters.
It really does, and like that when I'm going around the country doing the book tour, that's what I always tell people is like, if you like the book, you know, please go to Amazon, review it, go to the Facebook page, give me a like, because these things, you know, are all the publishers. You know, they look at these things and they matter.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
and it gives you the ability to just keep working.
And it's one of those things where, like, there's a big difference between 87 positive reviews and 107 positive reviews. And it's like, every little bit helps.
It does. It's true. It really is true. And I try to do that for other people too. You know, I go to their, it's, you know, just set aside 20 minutes every day to help all your friends do their social media, and then you're done. It's like taking a vitamin.
I just bought a hardcover book, and based upon your conversation about that, I just put up a 5-star review.
Hey,
So
everybody follow suit.
audience.
Thank you.
They're pretty used to me begging and pleading bargaining.
It's you know, it's
But-
one of those really touching things when it actually works. It does matter. It's not, what people have to understand is it's not for your ego.
No.
It's, you appreciate it, but it's really like, you know, people, I learned this working for IKEA. You know, when we had when we were getting millions of people to watch Easy to Assemble, you know, that's what was getting the money for us to do a second season.
Yep.
All those impressions and all those things really, really matter to people, the powers that be, that will keep letting you continue, you know, your growth.
To our listeners out there, nothing you can do is if you go on the Amazon page right now and you're logged in, click follow on her, below her name for the author account. And what that will do is the number of people that follow whenever she puts out a new book or it's a new format or whatever, they will send
Yes.
emails out to people who are following it. So be sure to follow her on there too. It's not, doesn't get as much attention as other things. Obviously, if you can get the book, buy the book, you know,
Yes.
and
I have also
Thanks.
bought the hardcover on Amazon, and I am going to rate it 5 stars.
Awesome. You guys
Look
are
at that.
great. Any,
Well, you know, we
any
gotta support, you know.
any movie questions?
I feel like I want to give a review that says highly interactive. It's like we were having a conversation.
Yeah, you know,
Like-
it is-
That is what everybody says about the book. I tried to make it seem like as if you were sitting next to me on the couch and you're watching, you know, Cape Fear with me or some of the movies that I've been in, because I'm just as much of a movie fan, you know, as I am an actor and all of that. I'm a fan of these people, you know, as well as acting in the scenes with them.
Absolutely.
I think that's what my review said, is that you have a great perspective as both a fan and a Hollywood insider. So
Oh my God, totally. Like I could barely work with Robert Mitchum. I was like, I just kept asking him. Usually that's what happens is like the first day they're really flattered. And then by day 3, like Buck Henry in who wrote The Graduate on To Die For, he said, Illeana, you can sit here, but you can't ask me any questions about The Graduate. Like, please, I've answered everything.
get smart too, right?
Oh, I mean, like, I try to do it in a way that I'm like, they're here. I gotta,
Yeah.
you know, I want to be a rememberer. I want to find out the real story.
was there a moment, is that the best moment of you just fangirling, geeking out next to somebody and them just being like, all right, come on, we're actually here to work?
No, well, the craziest of all was again meeting Marlon Brando, and I just burst out crying. I was like one of those girls that saw the Beatles. You know, I just, I had a poster of him in my, bedroom wall, and my acting teacher always talked about him being the greatest actor of all time. And then, meeting Marlon Brando, looking in Marlon Brando's eyes, it's like I just burst out crying. And it ended up, but I was glad that I did it, because then I made him cry, and then it ended up turning into an amazing day into night. So sometimes, like, you just, I fangirl, I'm a geek all the time. I geek out all the time.
That's awesome.
Do you have a pick or recommendation? Anything you've seen lately or read lately, or anything you want to tell people about?
God, I would say, of course, I've seen all the movies for this year. I think some of the documentaries have been incredible. Like Amy, I thought the documentary on Amy Winehouse was great. Listen to Me, Marlon was great. There's I watch all the Michael Moore documentaries, but I thought Amy was really, I've seen it about 3 times.
Wow.
I think the documentaries, that's a very interesting one. And also, the movie from last year, Citizen 4.
Oh, that
What
was
we're
great.
getting now with documentaries is that they're almost telling them like narrative films. And that's a really interesting way to go if you don't feel that you can write a whole narrative film, is to combine documentary but use make it like a plot, because the plot of Amy, whether or not her life was really that way, they created a plot for that documentary.
Excellent. Well, this is the time where we're going to bring this to a close and we're going to start up Weird Things very soon. So, for our After Things listeners, thank you everybody for tuning in. And your homework is check out I Blame Dennis Hopper. If we want to have more nice guests like Illeana, then we need to put on a good show. Show what our support can mean.
Yes,
And,
absolutely. Thank you so much for stopping in, Illeana.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, and good luck to you guys.
Thank you. It's been after.
Ba-dum-bum-ba-dum-bum.
That's the stupid thing we say at the end because we used to say it's been weird for weird things. We didn't have a thing to say at the end of After Things.
Yes. Oh, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Are you up for some weird things? Or
Yeah, I can do a little bit of weird things. I'm actually writing a script right now, but so I got to go back to it in a little bit.
Understood. You've been super
tonight,
generous with your time, so we'll jump right into this as soon as we can.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll start with a good one up at the top.
Yes.
Okay.
and
I've
I
got
did-
some really good ones. All right.
Yeah.
Somebody count me in. Are we ready to go? Just
yeah,
go for it.
Give me 1 second.
It's the amazing Bryce, who is so fast when you make a reference to anything, seconds later it pops up on the screen here.
No, incredible.
All right. Let's take me off here. Move that up there. All right. Let's go in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Weird Things podcast, starring Illeana Douglas and 3 other schmoes. Oh yeah, Brian Brushwood, Justin Robert Young, and myself, Andrew May.
Hello. Holy cow. If you're just joining us, which you probably are because you're not live, we just finished an hour-plus long, incredible conversation with special guest Illeana Douglas, whose new book is I Blame Dennis Hopper. Get the plug in right up front because she has just enough time to join us for a few minutes in this
Yes.
Weird Things episode.
We'll jump. We're gonna make her stick in for just one topic, and then she's gonna go write a screenplay. She directs. She writes.
No,
she
actually
acts.
do the work. The work.
I'm on deadline. I'm writing writing a script.
So we're gonna jump right in, guys, ladies. Bigfoot. We got a Bigfoot sighting.
What?
Proof. We have proof.
Oh,
The
thank
proof is
goodness,
here, guys.
finally.
I'm selling everything. I'm buying an RV. I'm gonna go hunt Bigfoot because of this video footage right here. I don't need
All right,
any more evidence.
okay,
Maybe I'll let you guys look at it, but you're not talking me out of it.
All right, real quick before we look at this, Justin, Illeana, if you not knowing what we're about to see, all we know is that this is proof of Bigfoot. What do
Yes.
you think we're gonna see?
I think you're going to see a man in a bear suit. That's my guess.
I got everything listed on Craigslist. All my belongings in this world. My house in Florida is saying, "Hey, unload any price right now, so I can buy that RV." And
Yeah.
I don't need that kind of skepticism, and I'm going to show you guys.
Okay, all right. Let's take a look. What are we seeing here,
And
Justin?
this looks to be, this is mountain footage here. We see a babbling brook.
Utah, because he's a Mormon.
Love it.
Okay, it looks like a culvert on the side of the road.
Oh, wait, look, something's stirring up there.
Ooh.
Oh wait, yeah, there's definitely a dark mass behind a bunch of trees.
He's got the good shaky camera.
That's the hallmark of the Bigfoot
look. Oh, wait,
cinematography.
There's a floating arrow.
Yeah,
Seems
still.
to have a bit of a looping gait. The famous
Okay.
Bigfoot walk.
I'm just. Wait, that was it?
That was it?
Boo!
There's on the link there. There's some stabilized footage, which shows a better. Which is why, again,
Okay.
I've made this life choice here that I'm happy to share with all of you.
All right, Illeana, real quick.
Yeah.
Scale
Yeah.
of 1 to 10. How credible is the evidence?
Thumbs down on a scale of 1 to 10.
She says it's down to earth. She's pointing to earth. It's down to
That was
earth.
bad.
This is real.
The worst part is the slow pan to nothing.
Oh, there we. Okay, so that's a better look, stabilized.
Look,
That looks even worse.
was
It's
it.
more clearly a dude.
Yeah, that's
Okay, well, Brian, you say it's clearly a dude. It's obviously a humanoid.
that's a guy.
Okay, so here's what's amazing to me. I wish I could see the transformation firsthand of somebody capturing this footage who tells someone else like, yeah, I saw a dude, and then someone else is like, well, I saw a Sasquatch. Look at it again, and then through that filter of like, I'm looking for a Sasquatch, and then you're like, oh man, now I see it after the fact.
Well, what I'd like to see is the video of the two guys in their garage with the one guy putting on the bear suit. After having 12 beers.
I love how Bigfoot looks very gingerly, kind of getting through this mountain pass here.
Yeah.
Has there ever been like any footage that you've seen, Illeana, that maybe didn't make you an instant believer, but left you wondering like, okay, well, I don't know what I just saw, but
no, not with the Bigfoot. I remember, back in the day, it's funny, before there were everything became a reality show. I remember that National Geographic, there used to be there was a documentary about a guy, I think he was going to China to see the Chinese, what's the Chinese version of Sasquatch?
Yowie.
Oh,
Yowie.
Yowie.
And there was this guy, and, again, smart as a whip, going like, got somehow convinced National Geographic to give him all this money to go to China to search for the Yowie, and it was, on like very little credible evidence. I mean, they had a footprint. Then they went to a museum, and they were like going to people's huts and things like that. And
maybe this was Yeti. Somebody's pointing out that Yowie's like Australian.
Yeah, that's
the
what
Yeti.
I thought.
Yeah, maybe that's it. The Yeti.
The
Chinese. It's
I always feel bad in whenever there's some kind of like survey of what do you believe in. Usually the heavy hitters are UFOs, ESP,
Ghosts.
angels and devils and stuff, and then but then always down at the bottom of the list is poor Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot. And
we had an expert weigh in on this. They spoke to a professor, an Idaho professor who believes in Bigfoot, and he analyzed the footage. Yeah. And supporting my claim is he says the face is very shiny. The edge between that shiny face and surrounding hair is very, very sharp, which smacks of a cheap fabricated costume. But that's not the same as him saying that it is a cheap fabricated costume, guys.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're right. It could easily be real. It could easily not be real. But I don't want to call people fakers, because if you do that, then nobody will send you information. Pretty soon you'll lose real things.
Yeah.
So listen, I think that's 100% proof.
Yeah, that one's not good. When was the last time somebody saw a Loch Ness Monster?
Wait, what was the question? When's the last time?
A time before camera phones.
Yeah.
I know.
As soon as you got, maybe he just preferred Polaroids, the Loch Ness Monster. That was really
surgeons. You had to be a surgeon to capture a photo of him.
I never know. Have you guys? I've never seen a UFO. Have you guys seen a UFO? Or
yeah. A couple of things. As a matter of fact, hang on. I don't think we even discussed this on the show. I saw a genuine phenomenon that I could not explain out my front door. If you go to vine.co/wood.
That you couldn't explain.
Yeah, well, I couldn't, and you'll hear me. Okay, so I'm upstairs. The kids are doing something, and then Bonnie comes up. My wife comes up, taps me on the shoulder, like, you need to come outside right now. And we go outside, and in the stark, clear light is what I think is clearly a circle of birds. Like a bunch of grackles or whatever, and it's just suspended there.
Those are birds. It looks like a smoke ring.
Well, it turns out it wasn't birds. It was as best I can guess, a smoke ring, but it just sat there hovering for a good, because Bonnie came and got me 30 seconds afterwards after she saw it. And then we came down. It lingered for a good 3 or 4 minutes. We happened to catch it at the right time. And putting it out, I was saying like, hey, what the heck is this, Twitter? And Twitter very quickly had some counterexamples that looks almost the same. As best we could figure, somebody was cooking something or had smoke maybe start out the chimney, and it was just so still out.
Brian, I see these every day.
Do you? Where?
Over at Universal Studios when they do their special effects show. whenever you get a little explosion or one of those little boom things hits, you get those smoke rings, and you can see where the dark part goes all the way to the ground.
Correct.
Yeah.
Somebody set off a firework or a rocket or something like that, or
But it
somebody
was
sees a
right in my
blown transformer.
neighborhood. That was the part that I was like, because we didn't hear any sounds, and I hopped on my bike and rode around, and nobody was doing anything. And again, I'm fairly
I
skeptical.
love that you were on the case, that you were like, oh, ready the bicycle. Brian
Bring, coming through, solving a mystery.
Well, hold on. Now here's the funny part: is I found like
a Cliff Bar and a sense of adventure. That's all that bike cop Brian needs.
Well, and to be honest, this is why I think people just accept supernatural answers, because it's easier to just say, I don't know, aliens, because what's hard is to ride your bike around and knock on your neighbor's doors saying, excuse me, I saw something I don't understand. It was like a black ring in the sky.
Not again.
Yeah. I've had ghost experiences. So I do believe in ghosts. I did live in an apartment that was haunted.
Tell us about it. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, I had moved to New York, and it was the building was called the Park Vendome building. Now, it's funny, they dispute this, and I did the show Celebrity Ghost Stories, and the Park Vendome won't acknowledge this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and when I did the show, they made us. We actually had to shoot in another building, but so I felt sort of bad about that. But it was the Park Vendome, and I moved in, and just from the minute I moved in, there just was all sorts of bizarre. It started with knocking. It did start with the classic. The place was freezing. There was noise around the clock. There was a piano there. I would hear the piano. And just what bizarre things kept happening, culminating with water pouring from the ceiling and having the super come down, and could not explain where the water was coming from. And at that point, I moved out of the building. I couldn't take it anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, it destroyed the whole, and they couldn't figure out where the water was coming from, but it destroyed the whole living room. They had to replace the ceiling, and at that point I went to the owner because I was subletting, and I asked for my money back. And she said, there's no ghost. I'm not going to give you.
There's no ghost clause in the contract.
Yeah,
she
thought I was crazy, but I'm convinced there was a ghost there. And I had another experience doing a movie. And we were shooting, the movie was called The Californians, and we were shooting at someone's house. And, we're walking around the house, and all of a sudden I noticed, no one else noticed this, but this woman who owned the house, which was out in Marin County, she had a framed picture of Manson's hair, framed, which she must have one strand of Charles Manson's hair.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that got me going, and I started to look around, and I noticed that she had all sorts of weird devil things. She had something that belonged to John Wayne Gacy, who is another serial killer. And in the midst of all of this stuff, I started to really get freaked out, and I was sitting in the bed, and I swear to you, something in the atmosphere grabbed my leg. And I screamed and ran out of the house. People thought I was out of my mind, but I said,
"Couldn't have been Gacy because he didn't like girls."
Something. So I've had ghost things.
Wow,
ghost things. Oh my God, those are both amazing stories. Real quick, we do have research coming in on Brian's mysterious smoke ring. It apparently has also transfixed yet another area that, like Texas, is known for its level head, Kazakhstan.
Well, and there it is.
I think we talked about this when it broke last year, too.
Floated in the air for 15 minutes and then disappeared. A similar black ring caused a sensation last year when British schoolgirl Georgina Heap recorded a video of the phenomenon on her smartphone. It is thought to be by many a portal to hell.
Either that, as a matter of fact, somebody, when I asked Twitter what was going on with the smoke ring, somebody said somebody had posted it on the Austin subreddit saying, hey, just in this area, what's this thing? And it was another angle clearly shot at the same time of the same thing. There were suggestions that it might be a blown transformer or something. But again, nobody heard. No, and again, not that that's evidence. Nobody heard a sound. But who knows what it is.
Well, apparently it can be made by a homemade trash can smoke ring launcher.
But again, nobody. They didn't have one. I was on my bike.
Bike cop Brian. He was on the case.
Exactly.
Did you find the exact? Do you know that you found the center of where it started from, Brian?
No, and again, that's one of the tricky things with perspective. It genuinely looked like it was only a block over, and our neighborhood is not very big. So I literally rode my bike all the way around the neighborhood, but just in the amount of time it took to get out there, I'm sure there was enough of a delay that, I eventually lost it and the sun went down and so on.
Yeah.
Well, here, I'll tell you what, just as that a ghostly apparition grabbed the leg of Illeana Douglas, we want you to grab her book, I Blame Dennis Hopper, available on Amazon. Go pick it up and make sure you leave a good review once it gets to you and you read it. Illeana, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to screw around with us on the podcast.
Thanks. Thank you so much. No ghosts. I've had no ghost experiences in many years, so that's been good.
Certified ghost free. The book is not haunted.
No, and very funny.
Amazing. Thank you. And
Thanks,
everybody go
guys.
ahead and follow her at Illeana Rama on Twitter as well.
Yes, thanks.
Awesome.
Great, guys.
All right,
Bye.
we're going to drop you off the line. We love you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.
Awesome. Holy cow, she was fantastic.
An amazing entertainer.
Do we want to
yeah.
pause a moment for you to reset everything, Bryce? Or
Yes, please.
Okay,
I'm gonna take
all right.
a note.
All right. I'm going to go use the bathroom.
yeah.
Where did I had a 2? Where's my 3?
Dude, check this out. 2-week anniversary. Oh no, you can't. That's all right.
You're trying to make.
Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah, all right, okay,
Yeah. Hold on, let
It's
me get
better
back in
now.
focus. Look at it, not bad, huh?
yeah. Heal.
Just a couple of. Da-da-da. Holy cow, Max Trollbot.
Oh my gosh.
God, you're killing me, man. Max Trollbot, I was definitely having a moment.
There we go.
Ah!
Whoa!
Mitsula!
What's happening? What's funny is just with the context and the beard, I was just like, Justin looks different? I don't get it.
Wrestling beard interchangeable.
Are you guys doing a wrestling thing up there?
No, I was just up. I was up for Hood Slam on Friday and Justin's birthday yesterday. Just up in the area.
Oh, that's great, man. Awesome. Well, I wish I was there with you, man. I'm enjoying. I enjoy your weird photo tweets, just commenting on Las Vegas lifestyle stuff when you're just outing.
There's a lot of randomness in that town.
Yeah, no, I dig it a lot. It's great. What else has been going on? What are you up to?
Not much. Just getting ready for March Madness.
Holy crap! Yeah, no, you definitely have Dr. Bird right there on your head.
Yep, I had Dr. Bird on my head earlier today. He was perching up.
That's awesome, man. So, and you're just around one more day?
Yeah, I fly out tomorrow. I was just up in the came up for Hood Slam and his birthday. Thought I'd say hi. So I have a little bit of PTO I got to burn up by May. So my time to use it's fairly slim. So
Good deal. Well, that's awesome, man. It's good to see you again. Well, here, now that
There it is.
Justin's back.
Well, yeah, I'm back.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
geez.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Brian went to use the restroom.
she was great.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Right? That and listeners to Night Attack and BB Live Show and NSFW show are well aware. The likelihood of random famous person coming on a show cold and having it be good, not 100% to be fair, right? You know, not always a great percentage. That was exceptional. She was great.
Yeah, well, she's such an entertaining person, so that was and to just be able to roll with it, to roll with our shenanigans and all that. But somebody who's very comfortable with herself, which is cool.
Oh yeah.
All right, are we good, guys?
Yeah.
All right, take it away.
Panic, gentlemen.
Yes.
Glad you're here. Listen, got some good news for you. The nothing could possibly go wrong department.
Ha ha.
All right.
These are always the boringest stories because they're about a well thought out plan that goes off without a hitch.
Yeah, we should
Well-
just call them tales of success.
No, I'm actually all for this, but some scientists,
Yeah,
Russian scientists,
the best kind.
working with some South Korean scientists,
Now we've got a tag team of excellence.
they've got a plan.
Oh, hell yeah, they do.
They have decided to clone and bring back from extinction
Preach!
Ice Age lions.
Dude, I'm so okay with this. That sounds rad.
Well,
I
why
mean,
do
as
we
long
need
as they
to bring
don't-
it back. They're available in a theater near you, once every 2 years or so.
Well, so how they plan to go about this?
They found some lion DNA they found some actually lions, some like frozen like lion corpses, and they think they can basically take some DNA from there and using some other cat, pop it in there, and they're using their scientific chisel, and they can bring this thing back. Now, of course, I noticed on the YouTube channel that he found to the right is the totally scientific thing. Breaking news: labs mix human and dog DNA.
All right, look, yeah,
from the
that
hoax
association doesn't have anything to do with it. I remember hearing a theory about a similar thing with woolly mammoth, that you would take
That
mammoth DNA
same group.
and then breed it with or crossbreed it with elephants to where you got fairly close to a woolly mammoth. And what's funny is I remember when I read that, I was like, oh man, so it's not a real woolly mammoth. But then I thought, well, what does that mean anyway? It's like it's big, it walks around, it's got giant tusks, and
It looks like a woolly mammoth. What else are you going to do with it?
yeah, exactly.
Well, and the thing that we can do now, though, is that's the old genetic engineering, Brian. That's the old way.
Oh, I'm sorry. What is this, 1992? Did a little movie
Yeah.
just come out by Michael Crichton?
I know. What was is this? Am I gonna go see? Wait, hold on. Let me get Illeana Douglas's IMDb back. I want all this to just be Illeana Douglas references.
Oh, what am I waiting?
Man, am I gonna go to a movie theater and spend my $4.25 on Alive, watching Illeana Douglas play Liliana Methol?
Dude, I worked in the movie theater when Alive came out. I worked at that theater.
So I guess it's not that time. Okay, it's not that time.
No.
It's now a modern era where different things happen. Different things like
We have the CRISPR, we have the Cas9 techniques. We can do precise gene splicing. So if we get that lion DNA and we're able to sequence it, look at the computer and look at that, we could take a little bit here and a little bit there and put it into a lion. We could then go full on. I mean, we have a lot of technologies now that we're entering the age of digital genomics. And
Yeah. So is this a new age that's super rad, or is this the beginning of the end? I mean, I remember
Yes.
hearing.
or is this a new age that's super sad? We're gonna let you vote, ladies and gentlemen, on weird things.
I mean, like, here's my question: is once you enter the cheat code for genetics, I mean, hypothetically, When I played Doom, it was really scary because I was worried about dying. Then you type in the God code, I was no longer worried about dying, and I saw no need to preserve ammo or to act responsibly in any way because I knew nothing mattered, and no matter what, I would make it to the end. Right now, there's a lot of decisions we make because we're really scared for the environment. But it seems like once you reduce the stakes, when it's all of a sudden it's just like, meh, just make a whatever. Like, does that reduce the need? I mean, obviously, well, I don't know. Or does it? Does it reduce the need for us to act
so wait, is your
responsibly?
question that we're just going to usher into a culture where we're just murdering animals?
Yes. What does it
willy-nilly?
matter? If we could bring them all back and improve them and make new ones, then why bother to save any of the old ones?
Andrew?
I
Brian has a
think
kill
that-
spree that he wants to go on where it wipes out animals indiscriminately because science.
Justin, this is the guy when we brought up the idea of, and this is a concern of Stephen Wolfram now apparently too, of AI creating virtually fully sentient individuals inside its memory banks to test things, then wiping them out in mass. Brian just shrugged.
I mean, that's
That's my favorite lesser known Ayn Rand novels.
I mean, as an author, you do the same thing. You invent people, and then you give them interesting stories, then you kill them.
They're representations of
There you
people,
go.
Brian. They're not
Brian
actually
has leveled
people.
a charge that you're an animal murderer. How do you respond?
I mean, again, I'm not pro it. I'm just, from the philosophical discussion standpoint.
Just saying, hey, listen, like I don't do drugs, but if people are doing drugs at the party, what am I gonna do?
One of the signs you're dealing with a totally disorganized psychotic is that if they draw a picture of something, like a bomb, and they insist that it is a bomb.
So, okay, well, so does that mean that...
So you kill people in your books. It's okay to kill people.
All right.
Well, I think we're talking about animals.
Nice try. You're gonna have to try harder, Andrew.
No, Brian, you pretty much flat out you just said that, Brian. You don't get to go, no, man, it's not. No, that is what you just said. You were saying,
he was
digitally
criticizing
sentient
your
beings. Well, you
impression
write
of
characters
him.
and you kill them.
I'm
Brian Brushwood, 2016, written in stone.
Try harder. Try harder.
Try harder, Brian.
Okay. I'm not entirely sure what's happening right now. I was asking the question.
Well, someone's not trying hard enough. That's all I know.
I'm not quite sure what's going on right
We
now,
need to
Justin.
step our effort up on this podcast.
Okay.
Oh man, this became a thing.
I don't understand what's happening.
I don't know. I was trying to make a joke because you guys kept saying try harder to each other.
And now it's not fun. Where'd the fun go?
Well, I'm back to. I was serious about my question. Like in an age where you can make whatever creature you want, does it reduce the ethical responsibility to preserve what's there, knowing especially that nature hits the reset button? We're on our sixth mass extinction. If we have the ability to recreate any of it, I mean, do we have an obligation to go back and recreate all of it?
So, like, maybe the idea being that, like, all right, so we got these animals on the endangered species list, right? Like, the idea should be, hey, let's just start cloning them now instead of preserving them.
Or
I think, and to answer that question,
is that hit to where you want to go, Brian? Or?
yeah, well, and again, that's not me saying that's what I think we should do. I'm asking why can't we?
Yeah.
No, I don't think you're Hitler, Brian.
Okay.
I know you're asking a question.
I mean, animal Hitler. Like, let's come on. Like,
Let's get to the question. So Brian, I think it's a very good question because on one hand, we do things like seed vaults and things like that, and we're trying to preserve these things. But then there's the idea that, like, we do get in the information problem. Like, well, do we really know the species? Do we have the ecosystem? And it is, what are we trying to preserve? And that's one of the fears. Like, there are places on Mars where we won't send the rovers because we don't want to get close to what may be outflows or water. We don't want to contaminate it, which to me seems sort of like, well, come on, guys. But we have that sort of ethical consideration. So there is that danger of like, yeah, we can bring it back. What's the matter if it goes away? And when one, we don't have that technology, but your question is like, once we do,
Right.
how do we become better stewards?
Well, and specifically, like, if we have the ability to bring something back after, essentially from the dead, where's the line? Like, do we bring back everything? Do we bring back just stuff that went extinct during written history? Do we bring back stuff that went extinct during man's history? Do we bring back, and if so, then why not go all the way back? You know?
Well, yeah, that's the $1 million question, because I would say that arguably people would say, well, no, we don't need to bring back things that went out. You know, you have to figure out, like, what's our window? Do we bring back the passenger pigeon because we killed that off? And if we just said, let's preserve everything that it is now, and as you point out, extinction wipes out these things all the time. And, you know, we've heard this thing that we're entering a new age of extinction. I don't know that I buy that, because if you name a species, not a subspecies, but a species that's not an island species that went extinct in the last 50 years, you're going to come up empty.
There's also, I guess, a question of, like, you know, if you're bringing something back, like they're not gonna, if they are these scientists, these Russian, South Korean scientists, if they bring back a Ice Age lion, they're not just gonna release it onto the streets of Seoul, right? Or just, you know, push it out of a moving car in the hillside. Like, it's gonna be kept in captivity. So anything that you're bringing back to take care of, right?
Yeah, I'm not really worried about that at all. I was just trying to start us.
Well, no, but I mean, but to the larger point about you know, extinction, like, if either you are breeding something that you believe can live, right, and you are reintroducing into an environment because you believe it will be genetically successful, or whatever gets brought back, you know, is going to be something that you keep. So the question is, what gets brought back? Well, things that people want to take care of, or things that people think will still be genetically viable.
Well, that's interesting too. In a world where we're seeing the end of circus performing animals over ethical concerns, is it ethical to bring back a species back from extinction just so it can sit in a cage and be gawked at? Like, is that better than letting it just be extinct?
I think that there would be big arguments about quality of life. You know, one of the things we talked about a long time ago, which I absolutely love, was the idea, and this is not something I advocate that we do next year, but maybe 100 years from now, is take part of Yellowstone Park or some ecosystem there and create a Paleocene environment, create something, go back and put mastodons there, put creatures of prehistoric ones there, not because they need to be around, but that would really be cool to create. Actually, if we get into this era of which we solve energy and transportation in the way that we've solved, you know, some other problems previously, if we get to that level of technology and we aren't worried about the space, you know, the living space, I love the idea of, like, man, yeah, let's take a big chunk of the United States and make it this old environment. Let's go take parts of South America. Let's make dinosaurs real. You know, let's put some velociraptors in Venezuela.
Now, is it possible to make dinosaurs, given the change? There's so much less oxygen in the atmosphere. Wasn't that part of it? Is that they could only be that big because of the oxygen-rich environment?
That would be a problem. If we brought back a dinosaur, actually, as they existed, they would be wheezing all the time. You would have to go in and alter their lung capacity to help them increase
oxygen. We'd have
oxygen.
to bring back dinosaurs, custom dinosaurs. Never mind. Sorry.
I'm okay with that.
It's a great name.
I mean, anything that we would bring back from another era, right? Like, would have to have some level of accommodations made for the modern society that it is living in, either environmentally or even just to reintroduce it, right? Like, you know, like it's going to be a bit of a trial and error to make it live successfully again.
I don't mean to start a forest fire or anything, but did I hear right? I had not heard the claim that only subspecies have gone extinct, no species in the last 50 years. Is that real?
As far as the only species that we've had that have been lost, and not subspecies, species that have actually gone extinct, like would have been island species in very, very small, environments. Subspecies, you reach, there are subspecies declines and extinctions, but as far as species themselves, and some people might say, well, why wait for that? But there is this, there's this ebb and flow. Now, somebody pointed out, what about the, the amphibian decline? Well, there have been a number of, we found, fungal agents and other things that have affected frog populations. One of the things that may have been affecting this too is that it's possible in some situations that the people measuring these populations were tracking in parasites or other things on their boots from one environment to another and kind of introducing this sort of worst case scenario that we face with, globalized travel and diseases can spread everywhere.
Wouldn't it be awful?
It is a very interesting things. And there are pollutants, things like that can affect that stuff, but some of it's overblown. Like, people still talk about, the bee apocalypse. Well, actually the bee numbers are coming back up. And the bee thing was actually driven by beekeepers transporting them long distances, keeping hives in unhealthy situations and stuff. But people don't want that message.
Well, and
I
guess
guess beekeepers always messing it up.
I guess the other factor is when you said in the last 50 years, my brain said in a long time, but then I realized last 50 years means starting in what, 1966? It's like 1966 was the heyday of when we of environmentalism and protecting species that seem threatened or whatever. So I guess I could believe that. That's amazing.
Certainly nothing's gone extinct since 1987 when Illeana Douglas played her first film role, Mother in Park, in Hello Again. I mean, that's scientifically for sure.
I defer all of this to Ron Bailey, who is one of my favorite writers on the subject, in which he argues against he says the predictions of a mass extinction will likely prove wrong. You can read his book, The End of Doom, which he gets into that, and he talks about some of these other issues there too. And this is not an argument. None of us here is making this thing like, hey guys, then let's start burning those plastic bags in our backyard, and let's start polluting our streams. Let's doing all that too.
All right.
Not at all.
Out.
Not at all.
Oh,
we're just.
darn.
Yeah, except for Justin. But let's act on evidence.
I mean, or if the universe is simulated in a computer simulation, in which case I advocate it.
In that case, Brian's entering the God code so he can just murder everybody with this ammo gonable gun.
That was
that one ended poorly. That sentence. That
was it the most
murder that sentence?
Yeah,
was it the most recent Peter F. Hamilton novel where the very pragmatic lead character Nigel rolls his eyes about the recreation? Like, there was some, what do they call it, sanctuary or something. Basically, they in all of humanity's infinite resources at some point in the 22nd century, as if because they feel so guilty about how they trashed the first Earth, they essentially make an exact copy of Earth that's totally without any humans whatsoever, just to be it. And and Nigel's just like, what was the point of that? Why did we do that? It's just like, it was a lot of resources for a planet nobody's on. I don't know, it's fascinating to me to think if you could do anything, what should you do?
I think there is just a good thought experiment is, what is the natural world and where do we fit in it? Because it's a philosophical idea that I think everybody believes they're on the same page on, and I don't know if we are. I think that it is something that has a more varied. People have more varied answers to that question than you might expect.
Well, so let's say you get your wish list. We have unlimited technology, unlimited resources, we can do anything. From the menu, do you pick freeze where we are now, or from the technological menu, do you pick keep our energy use exactly where it is, but make it all solar and wind, and carve out increasing swaths of unused land? What would you guys pick?
I would go for the other option, which is, use as much energy as we want, but from more efficient sources like fusion. I think that, I may sound like, the nut job here, like, fusion. No, I think it's a very real technology that we will arrive at some point. When that point is, I don't know, but when we do get there, then it becomes a different question. Electricity was such an incredible invention that we in the modern world take so much for granted, to the point that we're trying to prevent people in the third world and lesser developed countries to have the same level of access to it that we do, because we have no idea how helpful it is. You get into an elevator, you don't think about the fact that it's going to move up to the top floor because somewhere cheap electricity is powering this thing. We cook our food indoors on electric ranges, where meanwhile, one of the leading causes of death in the world is people in the less developed world who have to burn wood or dung inside their huts to cook their food, and it is killing them. It is a far greater effect on their life expectancy than actually pollution from cars or global warming. Yet we want to worry about our first world problems of like, well, this things, and those things are real problems, but the one that's killing the most people right now is a lack of energy, a lack of access to cheap energy, electricity, et cetera. So I think looking forward to is, as we solve these sorts of problems, we'll have other ones, but sorry, a little frustrated.
Woogie in the chat says, just tuning in, but isn't nuclear known to be the safest, cleanest we have? It depends. But I mean, yes,
Yeah.
it is safe relatively, and it is clean relatively.
Safest, cleanest may not be actually the cheapest when you figure out the cost of construction and licensing and all that, but absolutely the safest and cleanest per. You might be able to make the argument to say that like with solar and wind, but we haven't had those really in large scales. Like, oh well, Denmark uses that. There are 4 people in Denmark. But there might be, there might be an argument that solar might effectively be even more, because there are people. We have numbers of people who have died because of trying to working around nuclear materials and been in those environments, et cetera. The number of Russian sailors who never saw their 50th birthday because they were inside of these dirty reactors are actually Russian reactors that were on land that weren't properly shielded. So there is, an argument, but I would say the largest scale, absolutely, probably it is. And, hydroelectric, it's great. But if you want to talk about environmental impact, the Tennessee Valley, before and after, millions of square miles are, underwater. I saw it in Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
Yeah. It was a great documentary.
There was I want to say a little over a decade ago, there was a Wired article talking about the dollar value of all the forests that are currently underneath the water due to electric dams, because the wood just stays there. So there are all these preserved trees that are all ready to just be clipped and brought up. At the time, they were talking about some kind of robot chopping them up. Look, I was right. 2007. The article's called Reservoir Logs. I would love to know if whatever came of that.
Yeah. 2007, of course, when Illeana Douglas played Jill in Walk the Talk.
By the way, the Matt Ridley has a discussion on Rational Optimist, the blog. The greatest cause of extinction is
living.
Invasive species. And
but I mean, I always hear about invasive species because we try to move something in to solve another problem, and we move the birds in to eat the ants, and then the birds go crazy, and then we have to bring in the snakes to eat the birds.
Well, there was the very strange scientific case of the old lady who swallowed a spider to catch the fly. But then she had to swallow a
he points out
bird.
the rats, cats, goats, and pigs, and particularly one of the places they affect the most is when they get into an island and they completely wipe out a source. And those things are introduced by, guess what? Us. So it's not like we can, those damn rats and their ships they built to get there to eat everything like this. And so again, our argument absolutely is for intelligent stewardship of these things, but understanding these problems in much more than just a knee-jerk hysteria, that, everything we do is wrong. Well, no, we do good things, we do bad things, and our opinion on extinction has changed radically. When Lewis and Clark first went out to go find, go explore America, one of their mandates from Thomas Jefferson was, hey, if you can find a mammoth, bring it back, because they'd found evidence of woolly mammoths. They'd find these tusks. They found these things. They knew they existed in America at some point. And the idea that an animal that existed once could no longer exist, that's why dinosaurs, the study of paleontology, was so recent, was because when people did find bones, it was hard to make sense of these things. It's like, well, they have to be around there somewhere. People did not accept the idea that these things did go away. And yes,
that's fascinating. I didn't even think about the fact that given the fact that Origin of the Species was written in the 19th century, the very thought of things going extinct I guess is only a couple hundred years old. So of course you would believe that there would be dinosaurs down by the equator. All of the tales of explorers coming back saying, I found this critter or that critter, you would buy.
And it was, one of the things that sort of changed that was as we started to explore and, we find the Hawaiian Islands, Polynesian Islands, et cetera, places like there. And you would have these sailors, people would write accounts of, oh, we ran into all these nice big dumb birds that sat around there. 50 years later, somebody would go there. They weren't there anymore. And you couldn't find them. And, and that was in there. We don't know how many species. We do not know how many species we lost in the last 500 years. And we've lost a number of species. In the last 500 so years, absolutely have lost a ton of species. That is absolutely certainly true. Our attitudes about these things have changed radically because we didn't know. We didn't know these pretty things could go away. Not to say that we're better about it now or as best as we could be now, but we certainly have changed our mindset on it. But a lot of what we talk about is there's a lot of noise in that data, and we hear a lot of alarm when the noise says one thing and not when it says something else. A really good, what's helped a lot is in some ways you take Georgia Pacific. They have paper trees, right? They have forests filled with paper trees, and what Georgia Pacific has tried this, they want to continue because they own these forests and not because they're releasing them at cheap rates, because they actually own them and have to preserve them. They're doing really good wildlife management there to maintain, sustainable forest and all of the wildlife that lives there. When we look back at what was the state of animals on our continent before the Europeans came, we found out that the only place where animals weren't being hunted to the verge of extinction was when you had two Indian groups that were at war, and they didn't have time to.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey man, you want to talk pics?
Yeah, let's talk pigs.
One last thing about Origin of the Species, of course, originally authored in 1859, only 140 years before Illeana Douglas played Issa Weil in Stir of Echoes. Fun fact that a lot of people don't know.
It's amazing. Astonishing stuff.
I love he's got these facts at the tip of his fingertips.
Oh, man, it's right here. It's, a fun party fact.
Yeah. And so just a quick, Mart says species went extinct before humans started breaking the world. And, the biggest die-off we've had was 12,000 years ago, and it coincides with the spread of a certain bipedal mammal across several continents. And it may have been, it was a coincidence or the same circumstances that allowed us to spread, like, the Ice Age, going into an interglacial, or the fact this really well-adapted hunter all of a sudden springs forth into the Americas and Australia and other places that there are no big mammals, anymore.
Yeah, I'm really bummed that the efforts to bring back megafauna in North America didn't really go anywhere. The idea that they were just going to cart in a bunch of elephants and just, say, go wild, you crazy critters.
Yeah, there was there was like one plan was to try to make Louisiana into like a hippo paradise or something because
dude, hippos are terrifying. I started watching on Netflix. They got the BBC series Life, and that's no holds barred. That's some heavy duty gut punch. You watch a lot of animals killing other animals on that, which is a weird moment when you've gathered your 3-year-old and your 8-year-old and your 11-year-old. Like, hey, it's Life. You're watching hunts happen to a bird, an ostrich. They're tearing it limb from limb.
Gentlemen,
happy birthday!
Oh yeah, somebody had a birthday. Brian, was it you? Did you have your birthday? When's your birthday, Brian?
No, mine's back in January. January.
Never mind.
No, of course, Brian's daughter Penny had a birthday.
No, that's coming up. Hadn't happened yet.
No.
Hadn't happened. Yeah.
You know whose birthday is July 25th?
Illeana Douglas's.
That's correct. Yeah, gosh, birthday.
No, Justin just had a birthday, right?
I'd make a bigger deal out of it if you did.
Finally 21. Legal.
Yeah, 29 again. No, 33 years old. Still going strong. It's amazing how lucid I still am. It was a fun time yesterday. But thank you to everybody who said nice things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Including Andrew.
Yeah, I tried to leave you the usual message, and then I got distracted in the middle of the message.
I'm just going to assume that the usual message is the Marilyn Monroe singing "Happy Birthday, Mr. President."
Yeah, you got more of a Harvey Firestein one this time.
Nice.
Yeah. Gentlemen, let's go ahead. Let's go to picks. I'll start off with picks.
What you got?
You know me, guys. I'm on top of things. I'm way on top. I'm ahead of the curve. Like, that's me. That's sniffing out something that's going to be a hit.
Firefly, Battlestar Galactica, Arrested Development.
Not as bad this time.
Okay.
Not as bad this time.
yeah.
I'm a fan of, Christian rock, and I bought a movie on iTunes and, was expecting something totally different. I thought that, we never really got the full story that we could have on this band. And it was a little bit of a surprise for me to find out that, it wasn't what I expected. You know, those things where you're like, oh man, I can't wait to watch this, or I can't wait to get into this. And you're like, I'm from Florida, they're from Florida, and it's
All right.
not.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah, you know where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going.
I was waiting for
Can't
somebody.
you take me higher?
Yes.
Man, I got no idea.
Talking about Creed. I'm talking about Creed. Turns out, not about the band.
Oh,
turns out,
got it.
it's actually a Rocky movie, guys.
It's a rocking movie. There's they're rocking
It is
out.
a rocking movie. It is also a Rocky movie. So you saw Creed. What did you think?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it's I had the benefit of everybody else who kind of went in there to go see it early on, kind of had to take a risk on like, well, this is as Chris Rock says, Black Rocky, is this going to be good? Is this going to be good? And people I put on Twitter, I'm like, hey, I just saw this, I loved it. People are like, oh, what do you think of Stallone? I thought Stallone was great. What I loved was the direction. I thought Ryan Coogler was like, it's an amazingly well-directed film. And he wrote the screenplay, I think, too, with, let me see who else he wrote it with. Let's give credit. It was directed by Ryan Coogler, and the screenplay was written by Ryan Coogler and Aaron Covington. And I thought every Rocky's character, Baby Creed's character, his girlfriend, I thought all the characters, everybody was really well developed. I cared about each person, even the antagonist, whatever. I thought they were all done. Felicia Rashad, thought it was such a good movie that people didn't just exist there to exist. They existed because the story was about them too. So yeah, I thought it's like, and you anytime you go into a boxing movie or a sports movie, you kind of have this sort of idea of a predictable sort of outcome. But the Rocky movies surprisingly have always been very good at saying, Rocky, first one, spoiler alert, Rocky doesn't win. A lot of people are like, oh, he wins. Like, no, he didn't win in Rocky. Remember that? It was like he didn't win. And when they revisited the Rocky Balboa. What's that?
There ain't gonna be no rematch.
Yeah. Rocky Balboa, was another one. It was really taking the idea of like, you're trying to beat yourself. You're trying to do your best. You're trying to take it as far as you can. And in a really to do in a great sports movie, you could walk away and not win, but still show up and do what you need to do and still come out having succeeded. And so going into Creed, I'm like, okay, I don't have any biases about that. It's not like, I expect at the end of this movie that, whatever, that it has to play out a certain way, but I'm excited to see the journey to there, and I enjoyed it.
So here's the best, the ultimately, Creed is a story wherein you have to, if you are the director and writer and everybody, you have to get the audience to cheer for a rich legacy kid to beat a poor wrong side of the tracks fighter in his hometown and embarrass him, right? And we get there. And it's so amazing. It is the best directed Rocky movie ever. And it's one of those, obviously we live in this world where everything gets rebooted and everything, has this second life. And sometimes it's done for the right reasons and sometimes it's done for the wrong ones. This is in every sense for the right reasons. Like this is somebody who is really, 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 really good, both in writing and directing and acting. Michael B. Jordan's fantastic, and I thought specifically Coogler for director and Michael B. Jordan for actor was something that probably should have gotten Oscar consideration.
I'm gonna just a little side plot point. His challenger was not poor. His challenger is basically Conor McGregor, but as a boxer. I mean, he was facing going off to prison, but he was a wealthy guy.
Was he a wealthy guy? I mean, he was wealthy from fighting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I all I'm saying,
A guy that started poor.
I don't want to get into the weeds on this.
Absolutely, got you.
It's just it's a hard thing. It's a huge challenge. Why are we cheering for the rich kid? And not to say that a guy that wasn't rich, right, or wasn't successful, but in another movie, that very much Creed as the bad guy in the original Rocky movie could have been the bad guy, right? Mm-hmm. His son could have been the bad guy. So it really, really was really great. And just one of the things that stuck with me after the movie was how Coogler played with the score. Like the score is such a huge part of a Rocky movie, and so often he would like tease you to the point that you're going to get to an element of the score or have the score sort of echo elements of it, and then and yet deny you that experience to the point where you don't feel by the end like, oh, this is just a Rocky movie. They're going to run us through the Rocky paces, and here's a montage, and here's this, and here's that. You kind of get all that. They hit all those bases, but it's always just a little different to the point where when you are really at the point where you want these Rocky tropes the most, they're there for you, and you're just like, yeah, you're so jacked for it.
Did they pull the magic trick where it's like you forget that it's a Rocky movie, and then those tropes happen, and you're like, oh, it's a Rocky movie?
Well, what they did, which is really cool, is because in the Rocky universe, Rocky is famous. Is that Rocky Balboa is a legend. People know who he is, and there are iconic moments that if you were in that world that you knew. And Apollo Creed is a guy that has a legacy now, like Muhammad Ali. So, there's a couple points where it's sort of like you get these things because people around there know that was a thing.
Yeah.
If you listen to bicyclists talk back in the day when Lance Armstrong was a good guy about like when they got to go ride with Lance Armstrong, or right along, we saw him and next to him and what people talk about what that was like. And so you kind of have, there's certainly tropes like that. They use it. So it makes sense, I guess, in this world,
But I mean, to your point, Brian, you're never really far away from a scene in which Sylvester Stallone is playing Rocky, which kind of, obviously brings you back to understanding what universe this is in. Mm-hmm. But there are plenty of scenes where this is about Creed and his girlfriend, or Creed making decisions about where he wants to go in life. And those don't feel like Rocky at all. And they are just really, really well done scenes. And really, to be honest, the Rocky movies are, and they got better action wise as they went along, but it's like the action and the fight scenes in this movie, specifically his debut and the final one, are amazing for very, very different reasons. The first one is an unbroken shot that is just awesome. And the second is this, like, in lesser hands would feel audacious in how they switch styles almost per round to kind of tell this larger story of the fight. It is, I think it would feel kind of ADD in a lesser director's hands, but it fits so perfectly in this one.
Mm-hmm. I loved really how they dealt with the idea of what would the legacy have been of Apollo Creed in this universe. I love that. And there's, was it Rocky 2? Were we at the end where like he and Apollo go have their, it cuts away, they're going to go have their own private fight.
Yeah. They're gonna break.
At the end of Rocky 3, right? Like he defeats Mr. T, and then they're just in the ring together, and then punches, then it freezes, and it goes.
Which was a great thing. And here you find out who won. You find out who won, and it was such a the way that even though Apollo Creed is off screen, the idea of what space that, and it, just to the credit of the screenplay of just how they said, okay, how do we, what does that legacy mean in this day? You know, what would the legacy be of, you know, of a Muhammad Ali or George Foreman or somebody to that effect, you know, and how would not just Rocky's, you know, legacy, but his, and just sort of placing it. I loved that. I really, really loved that.
Yeah, man. If you haven't seen it, it's available everywhere on VOD. So check it out. And Ryan Coogler, you know, great director, and you know, another great director that's being brought in by Marvel to do Black Panther. So
And we're getting Creed 2, apparently.
yeah, Creed 2, which you know, Coogler's not going to direct, but I think it's exciting, and you know, gets more. You know, Michael B. Jordan is fantastic in this movie, and you know, we talked a lot about the acting and the writing.
Would you mind if Sylvester Stallone was not even in Creed 2 at all? Like at this point, you're invested enough in Creed the Younger's story.
You need to give a send off to him.
Yeah, you know, which, yeah, I mean, I think he would. It's better if he plays some part in it, because the movie does revolve around Creed's relationship with Rocky, and you know, there is enough kind of Rocky pathos that we have our own little Rocky story in the middle of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he should be a part of it. But if he was a lesser part of it, I don't think that the movie would suffer.
And I would say, like, you know, Stallone's Rocky character is one of these things that people often talk about from a distance without realizing what it is. And what made Rocky so great is the charm. He's sounds like a thick guy, but he's so witty, you know, he's in that kind of way. And that's what's such a neat presence about it, is that he's a guy that, like, you know, Rocky knows he's not the brightest guy in the world. Rocky knows who the guy who's not the quickest guy in the world is, but he's always got that neat observation or whatever like that. And his presence, you know, again, I loved Rocky Balboa. I thought Rocky Balboa was a really well done movie, and you seeing him as his character and having him now go into a mentor role, such a neat idea, you know. So.
Well, and you know, especially the first Rocky is very much a ethnic story, and in an era and a neighborhood in Philadelphia where being an Italian, like, is its own unique thing, you know. And this does not shy away from that, looking at Creed and where he fits in. You know, as you know, this is a story about a Black Californian transplant who comes to Philadelphia to train. You know, like, and it never is too much about it. Much like Rocky, it's never too much about it, but it never shies away from it. And I think that brings so much authenticity.
The reverse of the Fresh Prince story. He comes to West.
Well, there is Fresh Prince.
The first Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
But what I was like too is that I liked the idea that it wasn't about race; it was about culture.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of Philadelphia culture, and you see what Philadelphia's culture is like versus LA culture, and or Black culture in versus LA versus Philadelphia and stuff and all that, which I dug a lot. Was the idea, like, oh, this is really cool, because it's not about the race as much as culture, which I enjoyed.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. And the idea, like, you know, that in and without spoiling stuff, you know, like you know, their Black biker culture is like a big thing in Philadelphia, and like that plays a part in the movie, you know, and in a very pivotal scene that is echoing of another scene in the original Rocky. It's really rad.
Hey, I have I don't know, I guess two half picks. Neither one is like
when fused together, the temple mouth opens.
You know what? Actually, let's explore what my two picks fused together would look like.
Yeah.
One is, of course, House of Cards is back and wackier than ever. Boy, if you loved the hijinks of 1980s soap operas, are you gonna love the crazy stuff that happens in in House of Cards this go
Wow,
around.
so this this season has got better reviews. I haven't watched it yet, but it got better reviews than season 3. I was hoping that it would kind of return to the form of season 1. You not so much.
Oh, no. I mean, I've enjoyed it a lot. It's been a lot of fun, but I think I've enjoyed it because, and I don't know if it's a case of the directing just has me along for the ride or something about it. The first
The
season
addition of Mr. Roper, apparently.
I mean,
Secretary of State Roper.
I don't want to say any specifics about it, but there's a lot of tropes straight out of 1980s soap operas, and some wacky ideas that get floated. Some of them come to fruition, some of them don't, and I'm along for the ride all the way through. And then the other half pick is Great Minds with Dan Harmon. The second episode came out, in which he meets Ernest Hemingway. And discusses writing, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'm a writer too." And Ernest Hemingway's first thing he says is, "Oh, how many wars have you been in?" And Dan Harmon's like, Fallout 4, and he's like, "Oh, there's a good war." But anyway, it's just the amount of wackiness. Sorry, I got a little girl that just walked into the studio. That's on me for not locking the door. But anyway, I'm enjoying those immensely. They're short 11-minute episodes. Just search for Great Minds on YouTube, and you'll see them posted right there on the History Channel YouTube page.
Yeah, I can. I'll vouch for Great Minds. I liked the first one with Jack Black as Ludwig von Beethoven. I loved the second one. Scott Adsit plays Ernest Hemingway, which is so great because Scott Adsit on 30 Rock and a lot of other shows has this history of playing these downtrodden, beaten men, right? And so for him to step so confidently in this comedic Uberman version of Ernest Hemingway is just awesome. I think it's really, really funny.
I also enjoyed the very, very brief, greatest hits of all the awkward confessions Dan Harmon has made on his podcast Harmontown over the last 3 or 4 years, just crammed into a montage of it all at once.
Including a few that he hasn't made at the end, and you're like, all right, well, I guess
I'll look forward to that one coming up.
All right, my pick. I mentioned it in After Things, and if you're listening to these in order, then we talk very briefly about it with one of the stars, Illeana Douglas. Is Action. I love Action. It was one of my favorite shows when it came out. When it came out on DVD, I bought it immediately. It is super, super fun. Jay Moore is probably my favorite thing that he's ever done. Illeana Douglas plays a hooker who is hired by Jay Moore, but he then quickly realizes that she is a better production, a script reader and production executive than she is a hooker, and comes along for this ride. It's very much a love letter and maybe not a love letter, a scathing critique of entertainment in the late 90s when, as it turns out, there were a lot of really interesting things happening. It's you get caricature versions of the Wachowski brothers and the Weinsteins, and
when they were brothers.
The birth of independent movies and what was popular in blockbuster filmmaking. So go ahead and check it out. It's really it's well done. I'm sure it's on iTunes or whatever, but check it out.
I have one more pick, guys.
Oh yeah, what is it?
Rick and Morty season 3.
Oh yeah, that's right. The news just dropped. Coming.
I
earlier.
haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure it's going to be the best thing ever.
Wait, can we have a conversation about this? Because news, and I believe you me, I'm very excited for Rick and Morty season 3. I'm glad that Andrew watched it before anybody and introduced it to everyone. The news was Dan Harmon saying that it was going to happen at the end of this year and it's going to be 14 episodes. While I believe wholeheartedly that it will be 14 episodes, I don't know if I trust Dan Harmon at a random, Magic City Comic-Con that it's definitely going to come out by the end of the year.
I believe it because it's out of his hands. For the production schedule that it takes to make animated features, the script's already his work has to already be done by now, and so now it's just in the hands of some kids over on the other side of the planet.
Well, I mean, listen, the keyword was targeting into the year. It may not happen. These things get pushed. I will take this, Justin, over maybe 2017 sometime.
Yes. Oh, no.
Shut your mouth.
I think it's
Why do you
great
hate it?
that we're seeing shots of finished scripts and stuff like that. All awesome. I'm very, very excited for it. But all I would say is that let's not all be disappointed if this gets moved into first quarter 2017.
I'll take first quarter.
Dude,
Yeah.
I'll take whatever they're dealing, man. It's that thing's batting 1,000.
Brian, you feeling a little bit rained on by Justin here?
No, it's fine. It's nothing but excitement and sunshine and rainbows, man.
I'm gonna rain compliments down on Brian.
No, that's right. When he's live in studio,
You're a swell guy. Hey, have you lost weight? I'm raining compliments.
I have. Why, thank you.
Programming note, guys. Brian and I, lot of opportunities to see Brian and I live over the next week during the South by Southwest Festival. Night Attack will be live Monday instead of Tuesday, so tomorrow night. Are we still doing the Tuesday thing?
Yeah, I'm still working out the details on that. Right now, we're on track to do an early Night Attack on Monday night this week, and then try to do a special event, shoot Scam School. I got to talk to the guy and get a better sense of it.
So Tuesday, possibly live a thing that would be with Brian and I. Wednesday, we're doing a live contender meetup. That is at Hideout Coffee, 6 p.m. On the
8th in Congress.
Yeah, 8th in Congress. So go ahead and check that out. And then Saturday, Brian, Justin, and the Possum Posse bring to you the first ever South by Southwest live Night Attack. Brian, it's Austin Night Attack live, and it might be your first time, but I swear you'll enjoy it after a few minutes.
Yeah, man. They say you're a changed person after you've experienced your first Austin Night Attack live.
Absolutely. Everybody, we hope that you come on out and check it out. That's going to be at the Brew Exchange from 2 to 5 on Saturday. That is the Saturday of South by Southwest Interactive.
Oh, yeah, real quick. We said 2 to 5, like 2 sharp, like doors open at noon. You want to get there early so you could be there for the performance.
Yeah, because we're cooking. We're on
And a week later, if you're in Northern California, I'll be at Silicon Valley Comic-Con.
Absolutely. I'll be there too, but not in any official capacity. I'm just going to be there to throw things at Andrew.
Among others. Thanks.
No, throw compliments. I'm going to wad up compliments.
In the middle of his performance.
Your eyes sparkle.
You look nice.
Gentlemen,
Mm-hmm.
It's been weird without Illeana Douglas here.
It has.
It has. All right, let's get into after things.
An endless loop over and over again.
All right, good shows, guys.
Yeah.
Let me hit some buttons.
While we're taking a break, we can listen to this brand new song. Oh, Brian.
What party are you running under? Are you what political party are you affiliated with?
I'm running under the I'm just here to party.
So how do you
I'm here for the party. That's a song. I made it up when I waited this long to listen to your question and it kind of sucks ass. I'm here for the party. You better get in class.
best to
Working in Jeep Jock 2016. Feel the board. Vote for me. You better get to class. Not a strong.
That's his platform.
Yeah.
All their truancy, thing of the past.
I know.
When
Yeah.
the old captain comes in.
Captain, man. He sometimes gets lost. And of course the amazing Stephen Cogswell.
Oh yeah.
Just so good. So goddamn good.
He surely is. Oh man, I'll tell you what is so good is today. It's gonna happen today, Justin.
What's that?
There comes a very special time when hold on, there we go. There comes a special time when you hit a certain maturity and there's like a flowering and you have a glow about you.
Yeah.
And that moment is, of course,
Yeah.
when you hit 500 wins on Hearthstone.
Oh, damn.
That's
son.
coming up. 4. I got 4 left. I'm gonna bust
for,
it live.
For a hero?
Yeah, for my paladin, my pally.
You're gonna get a golden
I'm
paladin.
gonna get a golden pally.
That was not
Nice.
what I expected.
Andrew, comment.
Yay.
Effusive praise. Now let's go back to the desk. Brian?
Golden pally, I will have shiny. Everyone who plays me will know I've played a lot.
So, yeah. I once took a visit to a cult, which I won't name. And I walked in and walked around their offices, and they ushered me into a room because they were congratulating somebody because they made some level of achievement, And they're like, oh, yeah, Phil here. He just reached his number 8. And everyone's like, yay, number 8, yay.
So like that
And I'm
guy
like,
had that guy had power over everyone lesser than him, right? Who didn't have a
and
number
I'm
as
like,
high.
you know what? Like, I wouldn't try to take that away from that guy. It may be an evil, destructive cult. Maybe something that's very damaging. It may be something that just ruins productivity and sucks up, if not money, hours that could be spent, helping the universe. But it's not my place to judge. So, right on you, Brian. Right on you. I mean, listen, if I was as productive as you, then yes, I would play these things. But I am a very unstructured guy. And if I, Justin's seen this, if I were two people, if I said, you know what?
Can I like it's been a weird transformation where talking about television is now a legitimate part of my job. And whereas I don't watch a lot of TV by myself, but now we got to have 2 programs to talk about for every spoiler in time. Man, Hearthstone is a lifesaver to just get me to be all like, hey man, just turn on Justified, watch another Justified, get through it. And then you finish, you're like, maybe we'll watch some House of Cards too while we're at it. And then look at me, I'm doing my job.
You have a calendar with I need to do X, Y, and Z. I wake up and I'm like, yeah, I could do this.
God, I could never do that.
I was there. Brian, you weren't there. You haven't seen the horrors of the tiny tower phenomenon. All right? You don't know. Until it happens to you, Brian.
You weren't there, man. Good point.
I almost got sucked in by
I
tiny
treated
planes.
HTC Vive just went on sale.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I'm like, I'm not saying I was looking at gaming systems and budgeting out, if I got the Vive and which graphics card I would need and all that. I'm not saying that happened, but I'm saying that could have happened.
So
Yeah.
Here's what I really worry about. I know it's stupid expensive, but I know the technology is just that good. The hardware is that precise. I just worry about buying it and then there not being anything developed for it. That's what I'm terrified about. Not terrified. It's not like I wake up in the middle of the night going like,
the development of the Vive!
It's the TurboGrafx 16 all over again. Ha!
Well, I mean, I guess you could just wait and see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, my curve with games in general is I get a console and I'll buy 2 games for it, and that's all I ever buy.
And knowing Valve, I'm sure whatever ships with it will be that good. Where it's you could be perfectly.
They've got
happy
the
with
paint program in there, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just
They got Tetris.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But yeah, and like people are like, yeah, year later, Gen 2 is 2 times cheaper. Yeah, and year 3, and year 4, and year 5. You know what? Let's wait 20 years, and I'll be able to buy one at Walmart for $3. What's your point? What's your point?
I hate that argument that like I like to wait for the second thing. It's like, man, like, oh, congratulations.
Well,
You made it. Like, I know there's reasons you can wait for the paperback. Like, that's fine. Like, but sometimes, like, don't poop on my hardcover buying ass.
Yeah, Justin might pass out.
My iPhone 7.
Hey, watch it.
I guess really what they're saying is like, I'm afraid of being a chump. I'm afraid of spending money and then feeling like I got suckered.
Well, but you will.
Don't worry about that here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I get. I mean, it depends upon like, and I didn't rush out and buy it, you know. But like, I actually like, I'm still on the last. This is the first year I didn't jump up to the next iPhone because I was like out of town first day to go get it and all that, and then I didn't get it, and then I'm like, you know, next month, 2 months go by, and I'm like, you know, I want the Force Touch, I want that, but I'm okay, you know, next November going and getting it, you know.
Yeah.
So. I mean, I understand.
Wait, so did you sit out a whole cycle on the iPhone?
I'm out of cycles, Brian.
What? You skipped a
Thought we cycled together. We spent so much
pregnant?
time.
Not now.
I paid full unsubsidized price this go around. That was weird. It was weird. It was a weird experience.
Were you on an upgrade plan?
I don't know.
Like T-Mobile's got the jump and
Yeah, I
Verizon
think
next.
I think I was really into the idea of like it's one of those things when you look at the numbers, it ends up being a wash one way or the other. You end up paying for it, and this gets me closer to the ability to jump and go to like Ting or something down the road. But
yeah, I was like telling myself like maybe I'll just get the iPad Pro, and then that was like when it was one of those things I'm ready to buy. I'm like, oh, it's not shipping for 6 weeks. It's like I'll just wait 6 weeks and then decide, and then it's
6
like,
weeks later, it's not as shiny, and you're not as crazy for it.
So, but like, yeah, I get people like VR. Like, I didn't brush up by, but like, and the thing that we're gonna see with VR is that next year's chips are gonna be faster and better. You've got everybody entering the game with trying to do augmented too, and Intel just announced that they're typing in the room sensing for their augmented platform, and I think, yeah, I mean, would I feel bad if I dropped $3,000 on a Vive and a gaming system, and then into this year Magic Leap comes out with some killer thing, and we've got HoloLens says, hey, they took orders now for the HoloLens, and it's what it was, that thing, but with that narrow field of view. But when it gets bigger and wider, so yeah, there is. If you're only going to make one purchase the next 3 years, yeah, wait.
Yeah. But if you can write it off calling it research for your next award-winning book as a novelist.
I'll be in the middle of the IRS meeting, like, well, we got to ask about this deduction. I'm like, excuse me. Can't see you. You're not here.
I'm on planet no IRS.
You're just trying to psych them out. You're like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm writing my next book.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, it's not here. Where are you? What?
Oops.
I just spent a bunch of virtual credits on a yacht. What's that deduction?
How about you deduct the bass out your voice?
Ooh.
Because I'm trying to write off this VR.
The bass out your voice?
You ever heard that phrase? Take
No.
the bass out of your voice?
No.
Really?
Is that a thing? What is that?
I know it's because I'm not cool. Brian, what's your excuse?
No, yeah.
This
It's
is like
three
old
children. I have
days.
3 girls.
Take the bait, like if someone's like being a little too aggressive.
Yeah.
You say, like, take the bass out of your voice.
Ah.
Don't.
I just
yeah.
imagine this was just something that like Kanye was saying in the studio or whatever, like that'll threaten somebody,
I don't. Is that a non-white people thing? Is that-
I mean, white people don't have bass in their voices. Everyone knows this.
Mitsula did not know it.
We're baseless.
I've never heard it like that, but I
Yeah.
understood it. Right? It's like, hey, don't talk up to me like that.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, how about you ease up,
Yeah.
freeze up,
Watch your tone.
watch your tone,
Get
boy.
Let me eat these cheese ups. Did they say that too? Is that a thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
ease up, freeze up.
Speaking of cheese, did you see the
Cheese
Donald
ups.
Trump makeover using Cheetos? Donald Trump makeover. Look it up.
Hold on.
You just come out. Because he's got like, it's like he just came back from skiing all the time, right?
Is it not? Is it this maybe?
No.
It turns out a lot of people have done these things. Hold on.
No. It's an actual Trump makeup tutorial.
So it's a video thing.
Yeah. If you
there
type
you
in
go.
Trump makeup.
Tess here, and I'm ready with another beauty blog for you. A lot of you guys have been writing me, and the next thing you want to move around to is to the lips. With your lips, you want to make sure
Oh my God.
that it looks like you've been like running your mouth all day. Like you've been like talking and talking and talking because you like really love to hear yourself talk, to the point where you're like, oh, I don't even make any sense and I contradict myself, and like go and be like really carefree and not think about the
We're
consequences.
not trying to make a political endorsement or
anything
non-endorsement
that
here,
you're saying,
folks.
anything that you're saying. And you know you're done when it looks like, basically it looks like a chapped anus, like a chapped asshole.
Jesus.
So now that I've basically done my whole face with my foundation, what I'm gonna do is pick a bronzer. So it's really
go ahead
important that
further.
you
I think
pick
it's
a
good.
bronzer that is really orange. And then mash them up into a finely milled powder, and then apply that over my face, making sure that I use goggles to protect the eyes, because that's already like a done, finished part of my look. So I'm gonna take these and smash them. I like to like smash these Cheetos, kind of like the way I think Donald Trump walks around like his house and like smashes things. You know, he's like, I am so smart. People tell me I'm smart. Build my wall. Who's David Duke? I hate
darling,
everyone
wall
because
just got
that's
10
good
feet higher.
leadership. Sound bites and lies. Okay, let's finish our look. Voila. This face is winning, America. Remember, with Trumping, it's not what you look like that makes you ugly. Thanks,
jeez.
America. Love you. Bye. Mwah.
Worth it for the squint pout at the end.
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
America.
Don't care. Rick and Morty season 3. Selection can do whatever it wants. Rick and Morty season 3. I'd promised Justin at the start of the election season, said, don't worry, I'll have a portal gun by then. And
I mean, I've made this. I think this is a reasonable thing to say, that if at any point during the general election, if both of the candidates, whoever they might be, have a combined 150% disapproval rating, we get to just have a do-over. Like, whatever. This one isn't every 4 years. Like, we'll just bump it back to next year. If we ever just hit a combined, they both get over 75% disapproval, like, then we just, listen, it was a good effort.
Wait, hold on.
Lot that we could learn about it.
Okay, that is a fine proposal, and I think it comes from a good place, but I'm a fan of the counter proposal that says, you know what, we don't have time travel, we can't go back. The proposed amendment is that if you hit 75% disapproval rating for both candidates, we elect a sack of potatoes that literally sits there and does nothing. A literal sack of potato for 4 years.
For 4 years.
Just nothing will get done. It's fine. It's fine.
Where are the potatoes coming from, though?
I mean, Iowa at first, but then we get some from New Hampshire.
Brian,
and
we
then
call that
South
the
Carolina.
Gerald Ford plan.
What's that?
The Gerald Ford plan.
Gerald Ford plan.
Gerald Ford getting lit up on the weird things not after things, but it was after weird things, because after things was before with Illeana Douglas. Gerald Ford, watch your shit.
Yeah. My advice to everybody I'm friends with on Facebook: shut up about your candidate. I don't care. They're all reptiles.
Well, and
They're
the- and
all
the-
reptiles.
The problem is a lot of great art comes out of anger, and there's a lot of people angry right now. So there's some objectively clever art happening, but you can't share it without everyone thinking you're supporting one side or the other. I'm speaking completely of John Oliver's 20-minute beautiful, amazing rant.
I'll tell you what, say whatever you want about the John Oliver thing, right? There is no doubt the fact that dude programmed like the next week of talking points. Like it was like almost even in the exact same order of the things that he was making fun of for Donald Trump that like Mitt Romney repeated on in a very well spread around speech. Official comment.
Yeah, man. That was man, to be a fly on the wall during those writers' meetings. That would have been something.
Yeah. Are they going to do any other candidates? That's what I want to know.
Oh,
Just
no,
saying.
of course not. Look, ain't saying anything's fair. Ain't saying it's even-handed. Ain't gonna say.
I'm just saying there's a lot of
it's a hit
comedic gold to
piece.
be mined all over.
It was definitely a hit piece, but in the great history of hit pieces, it was a hell of a hit piece.
Yeah, I'm all for. I have a problem. I love hit pieces. I want more of them. I want more.
Well, I mean, that is always the. Hey, everybody, we have a official comment. Whatever. I talk about politics for like an hour and a half, like every week. Just listen to that show if you want to hear my opinion.
It's literally an hour of you going.
I do think we should just it should be we learn a lot. It's just the 150% rule. Like if we get to a combined 150%, it's just
Sack of potato.
it's fine.
Sack
We
of
all
potato.
learned a lot,
President Potato.
and then it'd be actually up to the candidates to be like, oh wait, maybe I should be more likable.
What if we just go into reruns? Like if there's nothing good, we just repeat all the decisions made in the previous administration. Like
We
not
just change the channel.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. The new stuff isn't all that good. Let's just go back.
Let's do it again. Marriage is for everyone again.
Just binge watch
Wait,
politics.
Wasn't that great?
Yeah. I'm in a real. I don't know. I've been binge watching William Henry
Washington.
Harrison.
What's that?
I was binge watching William Henry Harrison.
I mean, it's such a short program, but it was really intense.
Yeah,
I
was on
thought
my phone.
Eisenhower should have had kind of a better run. It was one of those things where he had a lot of interesting points he brought up.
Eisenhower the last time we had a general that was a president?
Yeah.
Also, I believe the last time that we had somebody who came in without political experience.
And then he went and pissed off the military-industrial complex.
Great speech.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Oh, by the way, if you haven't seen it, we played The Contender. It was very, very fun.
Oh God, yeah, no, check that out.
I took the Contender to game night last night, and it went pretty well. We had a lot of people. I think we had more people than.
Yeah,
Maybe
it
it was
starts to
helpful.
strain at like 7.
Yeah, we were definitely at like 11.
Yeah.
He took it all.
But
the
then
way
at
to
some
11.
point we were like, you know what? We don't need order. Just play cards, and it ended up pretty well.
Penny
Yeah,
has
yeah.
a
Once you get the rules, that's good. Really, the reason why we left the stated rules to be going one by one is so extroverts didn't crush introverts, because once you start just playing cards, it becomes all the big personalities play their cards, and then eventually they look at the quiet girl and she's like, I don't know, 3 cards in a row.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a bad time. But once you kind of get into the swing of it, then I think introverts kind of come out a little bit more.
Penny has a government class, and they're all real focused on the elections, which is why Penny knows more about it than I do. But she's going to take the Contender in and see if they could play an hour of it in school.
Yeah, you might maybe pull a few cards.
In the regular deck, everything looked legit to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, your funeral, Brian.
Like I don't
mean,
know.
for the record-
maybe I am more worried about it just because we made it family friendly with the idea being that it's like,
families.
People, yeah, that, there's an AP government teacher who runs a fairly large AP government teacher blog or Facebook or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she played it, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I just don't want teacher fired because of card game.
Dude, don't worry. This is at Penny's school, so you don't have to worry about none of that.
Do you see Betty White's Deadpool review?
What's that?
Play Betty White. Jesus, Betty White's Deadpool review. At least they didn't call it Daredevil. See if we can find that. Thing. We're not really doing a show.
Hello. I just saw the most anticipated movie of the year, Deadpool. It was glorious. Once in a generation, a movie comes along that your whole family will love. If your family is a up group of kissing inbreds. Plus, Ryan Reynolds looks so handsome in his red leather suit. I give it 4 Golden Girls. It's the best picture of the year. So, go see Deadpool this Friday.
That Betty White, national treasure.
Yeah, I'm glad she's still doing that bit. Being the
She's 94. You gonna teach her a new bit, Bryce?
No, I'm saying I'm glad she's still got teeth. Not okay. Hold on.
Yeah, way to go, Brian. Okay. National treasure. National treasure.
Alrighty. Well, hey everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
For getting weird and getting after.
Yeah, man. All right, guys. Jury tonight at 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern time. We'll see you guys.
Bye.
I'll just be right here. Wait until next Sunday. Just sitting here in my chair, waiting.